Okay, welcome to the March 2nd Budget Finance Committee meeting held jointly with the Select Board. This is the second of the two meetings, so we're going through the rest of the items that we didn't cover last week. First order of business, so, is the minutes from the last meeting. Those were sent out, and there were some corrections that were done.
That's correct. I make a motion to accept the amended minutes as released on 2/25 for our February 23rd meeting.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. We follow the same format we did last week, which is look at the items, allow questions from the two board members, or the two boards. After we get through all the items, then we'll go into public comment on any of the items that were presented tonight. Just to reiterate, the figures that are in here were all draft figures submitted to the town manager from the various departments based on instructions, but we're not, none of the amounts were changed from those recommendations, so we could see what the requests were, and then as we go forward, then we'll start to bring, adjust those as needed or make any changes that way. So first item is cemeteries.
All right. Thank you, Rolf. I've been actually dying to do this one. The total request is $20,048, an increase in contract services, most notable $3288. The cemetery survey is down $2,500. The total budget on the cemeteries is at 4.09%.
Questions?
Why is there an increase in the contract? Sorry.
No, it's okay. We ended this was the last year of our 3-year contract with our mowing contractor. We had some additions in the contract. We added the North Raymond Road annex that we were paying last year just out of Public Works general account to mow. And it's a 3-year contract that we extended with the contractor, and there was an increase in that to more reflect what he's doing for work on it.
Thank you.
How many cemeteries is that going to be that he's in charge of?
Just a second to think.
Okay.
Through four of them. There's Mill Street, Plains Road, North Raymond Road, Raymond Hill.
And this is just the mow, it's not to do any
No, that's
maintenance?
just mowing, spring cleanup, fall cleanup, and everything else is done. The digging's done by a separate contractor.
Mountain Road, Riverside?
Mountain Road, Riverside. I said Mountain Road.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Mountain Road is in that contract.
Riverside?
Riverside is Plains Road. Mill Street, Riverside.
This one in behind off the cave.
We don't maintain that.
No, do that one. Okay. Yep.
I see there's no funding for any surveys, especially Raymond Hill. Has that been completed?
Yes, we've taken that out. That's been completed as far as I know.
Yes, yeah, the survey is complete on that.
Other questions? Thank you. Parks and Recreation.
The total request here is $15,138. Once again, an increase in contract services of $1,140. The Raymond Rattler Snowmobile Club is also up $800 or 100%. Nancy tells me that's based on the actual receipts. And I think we maintain some holdback or some?
Yes, we do.
We do, okay. So we don't totally exhaust the account. And I think there may be some folks who were invited to be here for this section. Is that correct? Walt Manchester's here, I know, for the baseball.
Questions on the Parks and Recreation? Teresa?
Wasn't this a big issue last year, as far as the increase?
Raymond Rattlers, yeah.
So, I guess why is it up from last year?
Snowmobile receipts are what, 2,100 this year?
21 or more, yeah. And we cut them back 1 year because we didn't receive as much as we had given them. So we cut them back supposedly for 1 year, but seems to be an ongoing thing now.
Well, at town meeting, there was a motion to reduce it by $800.
Well, actually, no. What had happened, there was a dual recommendation
Right.
in, so the select board had recommended one figure, the budget committee had recommended a second, lower figure. So what got moved was the lower figure. Brian?
I guess I'd have the same question about contract services again being up. If the cemetery one is because of additional things being serviced, what's the issue here?
Overall, on the whole contract that the contractor does for us, or all of the jobs that he does, there were several items that we paid for, again, out of Public Works for extra mowing. There was some bush hogging, and the whole, with this whole contract, there was a $10,000 increase. But it was spread out over different departments. Mill Street Ball Field, I believe there was extra mowings down there that we're gonna try to keep up with a little bit more than we did last year. The contractor did a fantastic job at Colin. They did it outside of what they were contracted to do on several occasions. So I felt that it was better for the town to renegotiate with a slight increase. And now we know what we got.
Brian?
And I was just wondering, Walt, in that you're here, would you be willing to just talk about how the money is spent by the baseball group from the money that the town gets?
Sure, I can do that. I do have a copy. Last year you had asked for a copy of our annual budget, and I brought that this year. I didn't anticipate such a large crowd, so maybe every other person, I have 8 copies. But you know, in general, we're a small organization. Our budget, as you can see on the right, is approximately $18,000. We collect roughly half of that from the players, and $8,500 from the individual players. And then we have great sponsorship from a lot of local businesses that kick in quite a bit of $4,100 towards our budget. The town has, in the past few years, appropriated $1,000, which we don't specifically earmark this dollar for this project and this dollar for that project. We sort of aggregate it in the budget, but generally we are spending quite a bit of our money, obviously on hats, uniforms each year for the players, equipment upgrades, and then we're also spending. We budget $1,500 a year this year anyway towards field improvements down at Mill Street, where we're upgrading the dugouts. We're working on a lighting project right now where we've got poles up, and it's taken a little while, but we're working on getting lighting on the front field at Mill Street, and we hope to have that done this year as well. Most of the expense has already been incurred at that. It's mostly a matter of now the labor to finish that project up. So.
Do you have an existing balance? Do you have a year-to-year balance?
We carry a year-to-year balance. I've been the treasurer for 5 or 6 years, and generally each year we've been carrying about a $9,000 to $12,000 balance each year. Generally each year we really spend, we take in and spend about the same amount of money. So each year our balance has been approximately $10,000, which is good because it gives us money at the beginning of the season to get things going as well. So.
Great. Thanks.
Other questions? Oh,
I just want to make a comment. I'm not here representing the Snowmobile Club, and I know there was a direction given that somebody should be here, but I just want to make an observation, and that is, my son and I got into this last year, and so we've spent a lot of time, or relatively a lot of time locally doing this, and so I've been in about 9 different towns, and I would tell you that the things I observe are people who are not only snowmobiling, but snowshoeing, skiing, sledding, dog sledding, walking, other types of recreation. So it is something, the trails maintained is something that people get out and use, not just the snowmobilers. And coming back from a 4 or 5 town foray that started and ended at Mill Street, I did observe the local club with the groomer, you know, prepared to go out and groom the trail, so that was happening on Saturday and happens regularly. I don't know why there's no one here. We made the outreach, but you know, and I can't speak to the budget or any of the other elements of it, but I would just say that, you know, that it is something that people, I think, benefit from, not only snowmobilers, and I think it's good. It's very good economically. We stop for gas and sandwiches, things like that, and so I think that all those people out and around have to be good for the businesses here as well.
Brian?
Don, I noticed that, if I'm correct, through January, the monies had not been expended to Raymond Rattlers. When would that be, assuming that this is the height of the season?
When they requested.
Okay. Thank you.
Did they request last year's funds?
Last year.
The previous year's funds.
Any questions on Parks and Recreation? Thank you. Administration.
Administration, total request, $554,939, an increase of $33,472, or 6.4%. Basically, there's a 1.4% COLA proposed for employee wages unless otherwise noted. And so in the area of otherwise noted, we have the town clerk salary increasing to $55,000. I don't have the calculation on that, but that was part of the hiring agreement. This will be the final step in that agreement, and then it will be on a whatever basis we have moving forward. The deputy tax collector, the clerk is requesting that she be given the title of tax collector and an hourly pay rate increase to be commensurate with what we see for tax collectors from $18.94 to $21. The incumbent in this position has been doing the work for some years with the deputy title, which is sort of maybe the last vestige of the old system that was here when I arrived. We had, you know, the town manager having all of the titles, and the people who were doing the work were all deputies or associates of some kind, and which is sort of unusual, I guess. And so I'm a believer in, if you're doing the work, doing the job, you ought to receive the pay for doing the job, and so that's what that's about. All selectmen stipends are included in the budget, and I know that oftentimes they don't accept those, but we always budget them all. Code enforcement officer Chris Hansen, who's here this evening, has requested a seasonal part-time assistant at a cost of $10,000, and he can explain the reasoning behind that to you. The town clerk has requested a software package for more efficient processing of dog licenses and vital records. That's $2,600. Service contracts have small adjustments across the boards, and an addition of maintenance, $500 for the above software. Postage expenses decreased to reflect usage. I think that's been a trend for a while. Professional services decreased to reflect contract amount with the audit company. We did some bidding and then negotiation there to reduce that cost. A small change in dues, subscriptions, publications, remembrances. A small change in travel and training to reflect the location of the next ICMA conference, which is in Seattle. An increase in elections due in large part to the lease of a second voting machine. We are recommending that at $800 because of the possibility of an election for the, because of the delay in the results that we had last election cycle. And we're also going to have the last item, a possibility of election for the RSU withdrawal, and that is 1995. So those are the highlights of administration.
Questions?
Maybe we could hear from Chris first.
Yeah.
First, let me start with the good news. For this fiscal year, starting July 1st to date, the estimated cost of construction in Raymond has risen to $7,132,395. My permit fees collected to date For building permits are $26,970, plumbing and subsurface fees, another $12,140. So total collected to date is $39,110. Last year, we did 10 single-family homes. This year, to date, I've already done 17. I see the trend continuing. March through June is usually the busiest time for me to issue permits, and we'll see a lot more housing starts. Based on the last year's numbers, we took in from March until June another $1,314,749. We brought in another $17,762 in permit fees and another $5,197 in plumbing fees. I don't see those numbers going down, I see them possibly going up. If you add those numbers to what we've brought in to date, I'm projecting for the year $62,307 ending June 30th. And the projected cost of construction would be roughly $8.5 million.
Chris, what was the revenue number again? Sorry.
62,307. Last year, we brought in $40,856. I'm anticipating that with the increase in housing starts and more construction, I'm one guy. In the summertime, I spend, sometimes we'll do 10, 12, 15 inspections during the day. That leaves the office with just Danielle to answer questions. I put $10,000 in the budget as a conversation to start thinking about having some help during the summer months. I base that number on, I think we can hire somebody for $18 to $20 an hour, somebody that has a license to do plumbing inspections and subsurface, which would take a load off me. Then I can deal with the permitting and answering of real estate questions and that type of thing. So that's where I'm at. I also have had numerous architects and builders in my office recently looking at doing fairly large projects which aren't included in these numbers. The $1 million, $2 million homes on Sebago, we've seen an increase in that in the last couple of years, and that trend is continuing. Those types of buildings require many, many more inspections. For instance, the Wright Ryan building that's being built down on Sunset Chimneys, I probably did half a dozen just foundation inspections, just looking at the steel and the rebar. A framing inspection on a building that size can take 4 or 5 hours. A single family home I can do in an hour. So if we don't get some part-time help in the next year or two, I think you're going to start to see service slip, and people are going to start complaining that they're going to have to wait for permits, wait for inspections. We've done very well. Danielle has got me on a software program I can take in the field, do field notes in the field, and do, she schedules me, she knows where I am every minute, and we're very efficient. But it's coming to a time when we're going to need some help.
Do you want to hit on the issue of violations as well?
We've also been very aggressive in the enforcement part of my job. And in the last 5 years, we have brought into the general fund over $90,000. I can't guarantee that as revenue, but it's a fact. We brought in an average of $18,000 in the last 5 years.
What I wanted to illustrate was not the revenue aspect, but the element of the work involved to environmental work, the documentation, the ability to have the evidence to substantiate violations at that magnitude, which is I would think among the leading towns in this region, and we want people to know that we take a no-nonsense approach to such violations, that we're serious, and I hope that is known. But the side issues, the revenue, the part that's important is the time commitment.
Yeah, some of these consent orders or cases can go on for 2.5 to 3 years.
But where, I mean, you've got that, the income side ultimately comes from that, but where's your cost side picked up on that? I mean, I'm assuming that in a case like that, we're gonna have additional legal fees and whatnot.
Actually, and surprisingly, we haven't had a great number of legal fees. The Board of Selectmen, along with myself, we've met in executive session, talked about, structured settlements. We have done, they have done some mediation, we have done some, obviously, consent agreements, and so we haven't, spent a time in court.
We generally get, when I say 90,000, that's fines and legal fees. Generally, when we do a consent agreement or an action in court, we get our fines plus our legal expenses are paid back. We haven't lost.
Right, that's a great point.
We haven't
But
lost
the
legal fees yet.
The legal fees, though, usually compared to the fine, are significantly less.
If you needed me, Rolf, to break that down for another meeting, I could.
Yeah. No, I just kind of looking at it, I mean, if we're starting down the track, which I don't disagree with of being aggressive on that, do we have an offset someplace where we need to also look at building up on the legal side to cover ourselves that way? So.
Well, we do expend the money, but we typically recover it. We always recover it, I guess.
Well, I guess I'm looking, if you take one of these, it's a 2 or 3 year from start to settlement. You've got some expenses in that before you recover that. So
true.
Most of the work, Rolf, is done by the code staff and assisted by state agencies like the DEP, Portland Water District. The legal expenses at the end of the process when we need to write the consent agreement. I've written enough of them now so we have a pretty good formula how to write them, and it's not like we're going from scratch.
yeah. Any questions? Marshall?
You're booking 62,000 roughly this year in income
Projected.
but your income projection for next year is a little bit on the conservative side, I think. Would you feel comfortable in increasing that another 5,000?
Well, Nancy and I were just talking about that actually about 10 minutes ago. Yes.
It's funny I overheard that. Seriously, if you're looking to bring somebody aboard, which I think I agree with, then at least that person should be able to cover his own expenses, and you're looking at a $10,000 expense. So.
I had 55 projected income.
Right.
And these numbers I came up with in the last, today. I gave some to Nancy a couple weeks ago, but I went through this afternoon and double checked, and I would feel comfortable with at least 60. And I'm anticipating if we get a couple of these multi-million-dollar homes, there's a good permit fee that comes along with those.
A couple years ago, we talked about electrical permits. And
That was the next thing I was going to speak about.
okay,
I am anticipating if I get the help, it would be reasonable to require electrical permits. I would have the time to do those. I do electrical permits at rough-in now and at final. But what I don't do is I don't do the service inspections for the entrances. That CMP does those for us now because we don't require electrical permits. If I require electrical permits, I will be required to do those inspections. It's another inspection I'll be out in the field doing, and I'll be responsible for that. So that also justifies a little need for help.
Right.
The anticipated revenue from electrical permits could be in the range to 5,000 to 6,000. I'm going by what Gray brought in last year and what Poland brought in last year. The town's similar to our size, similar in permits, so we could probably bring in another 5 if I could get the selectmen to approve the schedule for the electrical permits.
Last question I have for you is there a pool of people available that you could
Yes,
get?
I believe there is. I know of several code officers that work part-time.
Okay.
For instance, Fry Island, he works 2 days a week. There, Gorham last year hired somebody, actually that worked, mentored with me, Danielle's uncle actually, got hired by the town of Gorham last year for, I believe, $19 an hour to start. He went part-time and now he's full-time. There are people out there looking to get into this field. It's a perfect segue to work, learn from somebody, and then go for a full-time position. There are also college degrees in code enforcement now. So there's kids graduating from University of Maine, Augusta, with, I think it's a 2-year degree, that are looking for a job. It'd be a perfect place to start.
Thank you.
Chris,
Yep.
if you hired this person part-time,
Yes.
that would just be during the summer hours,
Yes.
or the summertime?
Mhm.
And would they get a vehicle too?
Probably not.
Okay.
If there was a need for them to be in the field, they'd have to use their own vehicle, but they could use my vehicle if I was in the office. We'd share it.
Okay. I'm just wondering if another vehicle would be put onto this.
That's not
thing.
part of the plan.
Okay.
Any questions?
I've got other administration questions on assessment.
So, I'm done.
Anything else on code enforcement?
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Other on administration, Brian?
Yeah, a few. On utilities, on the phones in particular, last year you guys came in plus 34 to budget. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. This year you're currently plus 26 to budget. I'm wondering if that's a place where some savings can be found.
Nancy?
When I look at it, it doesn't appear that it should be changed,
Okay. May I ask why?
just by the expenses that we currently incur.
Okay.
Some of them are not continuing, so they're hard to do.
Yeah. I mean, phones is usually a fairly consistent thing across the year. So, but I hear you. You know, one of the things that's kicked the administration numbers up in the last couple of years was the legal. You know, if I look at the old run rate of 26 to 30,000 versus last year, which was at 38,000. The 38,000, I'm assuming a lot of that had to do with the parking lots on the Cape and the like. Is that correct? Why we were so high?
There was
All kinds of stuff. Okay. So I guess the question really is why 36,000? What's being anticipated? And by the way, currently you're up 35% to budget. So.
Well, you're only
At
30 on,
36.
you're only 30 on
Right.
legal. The 68 is on audit.
Okay.
But-
Okay. Good point.
That actually, when you think about it, I mean, when you think about an organization as complex as the town, and I'm not saying it's, you know, that big a deal, I guess, but it's, but certainly there are lots of engagements that we have. When you look at that cost, and I would contrast that, you could look at what other towns have for legal costs, and perhaps it's just my own experience, but that's a relatively low number for legal. You don't have to be in too much of a legal wrangle to burn that kind of money these days at the hourly rates. And so, and we're involved in all sorts of different issues, and so I would argue that's not very much money. You say a big increase or whatever, I'd say it's not a great deal of money for a town to have it in a legal budget. And even at our peak here, it's about a fifth or so of what I had been accustomed to in other places. So it's very low in my mind.
I'm glad we're not a litigious town. That's good.
Right. Well, we have our times. We have our ups and downs. We have our ups and downs. Trust me. But it's. I mean, no, you never want to spend a single dollar on legal. But I'm just saying,
Sure.
realistically,
I'm trying to squeeze
it doesn't really actually equate to even a full-time position, which many towns, not much larger than us, have a staff attorney.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Just a couple other ones. On the elections, understand the need for having monies for an incremental election given the RSU situation. Right now, if I understand, we've got money contingency in for that, as well as another potential election. And I'm wondering, at some point, couldn't some of these things, I mean, the select board has the ability to allocate money should the need come up. That seems to me to be two possible elections, and I understand there always being room for one, but Sue, I'll put you on the spot for that one.
The RSU, the way the law is written, the commissioner can and will try to coincide that with a state election. So it won't incur us extra expense, but it's can and try. It isn't will.
Right.
But-
So that's the only reason I put that in there. And if we needed a special town meeting and an election to go with that. So we could
So
go either way with that.
we might need the town election to also, there might be a standalone town election that would also have to be linked then to if the RSU vote was not to happen at the election time? Is that?
We could potentially have the RSU election not during a state election.
Right,
And we could come up with a town reason why we need to have another election.
right.
Or
Okay,
another
so,
special town meeting or
Right,
something.
right.
Whether it's likely we'll have both of those scenarios come up in 1 year, I don't know.
okay.
But Murphy's Law says if we don't plan for it, we'll need to do it. So that's why I put that in there. But I'm certainly not wedded to those.
But I think the question is, at some level, she's trying to anticipate a certain level of imponderables, and could you instead take the money from the selectmen contingency if these things materialized? And the answer is yes, and not budget them. Is that the question?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
that's,
think you
there's
could do it
just
that way,
two
too.
different approaches to the same thing.
Yeah, we're asking people to tell us what their needs
No, I think it's great.
could be in sum total, but certainly you could do it the way you're suggesting, and then if it materialized, the selectmen would just need to take it from contingency.
Right. And then Sue, as long as you're there, the other one was, totally agree with the need for having the additional equipment in 2014, which was a major election year. Do you see that being an issue in 2015?
No, I don't, but the way the contract is running with the state, we'll have a one-time shot at leasing this equipment. If we don't, the next time we can lease the equipment isn't until 2017.
So we'd
Which
miss the
skips the
2016, which
presidential.
might be big.
Yes,
Who knows?
it could be. So for next year, or this coming year, do I see us needing necessarily a second machine? No.
But in order to have it in
2016, I
2016, you
certainly
need
do.
it in 2015.
Yes,
Great.
yeah, they won't let us do a per election lease, they used to,
Interesting.
but they've gone to a different vendor with the new equipment and won't allow us to do that now.
Thank you very much.
Which is why we didn't for this last one, because I didn't want to spend the extra money to have a lease through multiple years, and then it ended up taking, because we had the RSU ballot as well, it ended up taking more time.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My last, one last question, which was, Don, I understand that you had waterfront property the other day in your office, meaning you had some
Yeah.
ice dams? So my question was, is $2,000 enough, given
Well,
the challenges?
actually, that was an anomaly, I think, and hopefully won't be repeated. Never had water intrusion before in that spot. We've had it in other spots. The problem with the building is they're two separate buildings on two separate foundations. The old slab, rocked up type foundation for the original building, and then the modular is on a concrete foundation, and so they move at different rates, I guess. And of course, this was the problem that a lot of people are having. The snow accumulation, snow load, and so hopefully you don't have that problem. I hate to make this argument, but I will. I guess I'm kind of resigned to the fact that where we're at with the town office. I've long since given up the idea that we might have an office. So we have invested fairly significantly in the building, and so I'd say for what it is, it's in pretty good repair now. It has new roof. It has a new furnace. It's had multiple wiring upgrades, computer cabling upgrades, new windows. We're contemplating, or we're actually engaged in soon, a renovation of the front. So I think that the town office actually is in pretty good shape.
Okay, good.
We could use some new carpet. I think we could use new paint throughout. So we're going to try to figure a way to do that. But for an old building with an attached modular, which shortly, by the way, it had a 20-year design life, it's in its 40th plus year now, that may become a historic building. It may become the oldest modular in the state of Maine, and someday, you know, another 50 years, it will be something really unique, and people will come to see it probably, and we might be able
We
to
can
charge
charge
admission.
for that, and then they can help.
Because that was a 20-year design building, 2x4 building, and it's still there, and we're still using it.
Thank you. And thank you.
My question was gonna be to Sue, but I believe you answered my question in that a lease for a voting machine is for an annual lease and
Yes.
not a per, okay.
Supplies are going up 50%. You're going from 4,000 to 6,600. Is there something special in there?
It's that software for vitals and dogs. I've stuck that in under,
The trio.
yes,
Not under dogs, you're stuck in
and
there.
under supply. One time.
I read that, thank you.
Other questions? Assessing.
Assessing, the total request is $52,379. There's an increase of $381. This is a small increase in the cost of the software maintenance.
Questions? With the, I guess the only other question, with the information that Peter just was talking about on new construction, do we have enough hours allocated for assessing and reassessing?
That's,
Just had an increase.
yeah, you want to speak to that one, Danielle?
When we renegotiated his contract last year at town, that went to town meeting, that included 10 more days that he hasn't yet used. So last year he was using 40, this year will be 50, so. Actually, it might even be 60 now, so. He's at 30, yeah, so he's at 60 days now, so that's 10 more days than he was at, but. With the software upgrades that we realized through Chris's department, it will help us to also expedite in communicating with assessing. So we're hoping that he'll be able to realize that potential out in the field as well.
The other point that, as long as we're on that topic of assessing, which, and Chris talking about the building numbers, I should tell you that those are, you know, stated numbers from the individuals on the permits, and of course everybody really puts in the top estimate on that. And so the numbers that the assessor would come up with will be
Different.
I'm being facetious, but those are low numbers, in other words. I think if he's got 7 million stated value, that we're likely to see significantly more than that when the assessment is done. And if you get too much significantly more than that, you know, you're more than halfway to the peak year ever already. So I would say that it does seem to be a trend upward, and significantly so.
Where are we at versus state valuation right now?
We just got the report today.
Go ahead, yeah. It's not no, state valuation.
We just got the state, well, you mean in terms of valuation or what percentage we're at?
Well, where we are versus state valuation.
105%.
Okay, so.
Which is where we've been riding, which is perfectly acceptable. And I talked to Kurt about that, and although that's, you know, not ideal, obviously, I mean, the, you know, 100% would be good. You know, the thing is that we're now more than 10 years down scope, and so where we have inequities, where we have quality issues, the quality issues are consistent. So everybody's being disadvantaged equally, I guess, is one way to look at it, in the sense of the issues we have with the numbers are not in any inordinate way affecting any kind of population. So everybody's the same that way. So I'm not really saying it in a clear way, but the quality rating is equally inequitable across the board, maybe.
Well, I mean, if you went back to 100, then the mill rate's going to go. So I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it's
Right, but there are other factors
still
that go in, and
money
I
out,
probably shouldn't have jumped into it without being able to explain it fully. But I asked him that question. I said, so what does does this mean we, now, should we be looking at a reval? And he says, no, not needed, which is something the selectmen decided some years ago, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're not mandated until we're at the low side anyway, so.
70%.
Right. But the issues that are related to the reval, and there are in every town, some towns a year or two out have issues, but they're not significant first point, and where they do exist, they are, equal opportunity inequities, let's say.
Marshall?
Just one other question for either Chris or you. Where do you think we are as far as total land use, total land available to be built? Are we getting up there, or?
We still have a number of subdivisions that are not built out. We're not seeing people coming in to the planning board with subdivisions. I think we probably have at least 75 vacant lots that are in approved subdivisions.
In approved subdivisions,
Mhm.
okay. What about other land available?
I don't know how I would answer that question.
A lot of undeveloped
There's a
land.
lot of undeveloped land.
That's a good answer right there. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. As opposed to
Before we had the crash or whatever it was, the downturn, recession, whatever, we were looking, staring down the barrel at what we thought was a couple hundred housing starts, and which would have made us, the Gorham of the 2000s. Gorham did that in the 80s and 90s. Scarborough before that, and so those areas, Wyndham, they're not built out certainly, but they're certainly more densely built than Raymond, and so I think it's logical that people, if there's a desire to build a new home and there are lots and affordable lots available in a rural setting, people like that, and so I think that there will be demand, and it's not going to go away, and people will continue to want that rural setting until it no longer, people want a rural setting until it no longer exists. And I watched that happen in my hometown of Scarborough. It was a farm town when I grew up there. It's not a farm town now. Not a lot of available land for development there now.
Other questions? Thank you. Town Hall.
Town Hall, the total request, $18,885, a decrease of $1,371. The big decrease, I guess, is in the cost of heating oil, $2.25 a gallon versus $3.60 last year. I think Nancy did a great job locking that in. The alarm monitoring is an increase, supplies decrease, and equipment an increase. That's all I have. I don't have any detail on that. I'm going for my notes here.
Questions on the Town Hall?
I guess I would tell you that, following up on the earlier discussion, for what it is, it's meeting our needs, and I think we're okay there.
Bob?
In terms of heating oil, is that a annual contract, correct, locked-in rate?
We're locked in for next heating season, yes.
Next heating season will be $260. Yeah.
And that's locked for the whole, I mean, that picks up the fire. I mean, you get the same rate on the fire and all of
They
those.
have, okay, so that's
Bonds.
even less.
Yeah. You get that for less. That's what was going crazy this year.
149.9.
149?
Yes.
Can I get in?
Yeah.
That'll be inside of it.
Other questions on the Town Hall? Okay. Community Development.
The total request is $61,651. It's a decrease of $30,860. The decrease is due to the $55,000 related to last year's community projects using timber sale proceeds. Those were the community survey, the Kineska Road Community Forest, and let's see here, I'm gonna find the right sheet. Okay, so we've got an increase of $5,000 in contract planning services, a new director of development position proposed at $3,000, ordinance update increase of $1,000, request from the Conservation Commission in the amount of $10,000. That's another contribution for the community forest project, and then a request also that came from the Conservation Commission for $5,000 to support the Lake Region bus. So that's what I have for notes on the community development.
I've got a question on the Lake Region bus. Do they actually pick up the people in the town of Raymond too and take them to different places?
Picks up at Sunset or?
So the set locations, Sunset is the stop in Raymond. There's a stop in Naples.
Yeah.
There's a stop in Raymond,
Casco.
Wyndham. Casco, Wyndham, Raymond, Wyndham, Westbrook, and then Portland.
I think they're going to try to get out to, Bridgeton is their plan. But presently, I think it ends in Naples.
Is there a lot of people that actually use it in the town of Raymond?
I would say no.
John Rand uses it back and forth every day to Portland.
Yeah, John.
It has Wi-Fi on it too, and I think there's somebody else too.
Yeah.
There's at least 2 people using it on a
Yeah.
regular
He
basis.
was, according to his notes here, he said 10% of the riders.
When they send us numbers, it seems to be pretty riders on it.
Danielle
I've used
says.
it. Pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot drive into Raymond for $3. I mean,
No.
sorry, into Portland for $3. I mean, the gas, unless you're riding a motorcycle.
Yeah,
It's an amazing
question-
deal.
When it comes to the bus, in my mind, the question is that it's never going to be, I mean, the question was asked here, I think, is it going to make a profit? Is it going to be something that, you know, from a business standpoint is going to make any sense? It isn't going to do that. You know, it's heavily subsidized now. It'll need to be subsidized in the future. The question is, what entities will be subsidizing it? Will the towns become part of that program? Do you find enough value in the bus? I mean, right now, ridership, as Danielle was cueing me, is I would say low, but Raymond's, I think she's the second highest town. But the question, it's very new. It's something that may or may not, hopefully may increase in ridership. It's an outlet for people who don't have any other means, and there are people, of course, who have other means who choose to do it for other reasons, environmental and otherwise. And so it's something. Do you find value in it? Is it a community service, amenity, if you like, whatever you want to call it? Is it something that provides value to the towns that the towns want to become part of the partnership on, realizing that no matter what happens under even the most glorious of future scenarios, it's probably not going to ever be a moneymaker because no public transportation system is.
One of the ways to also look at the bus is an economic development factor, because if we add, you know, marketing and make people, you know, want to come to Raymond, then they'll choose us as a stop, like get on and get off. And one of the hopes is to actually move the stop closer to like the Raymond Village Library, so that patrons can then be able to easily get there from one town to another. Because right now a lot of people are utilizing it in order to, you know, come here and use it as a means to get into Portland to their jobs, because it brings it to the public hub. And then, but the hope is to try to bring them here so that they'll stop and shop and utilize our business as well if they're here. So
Did you have any idea on ridership?
I can get you the report. It's actually, as I said, Raymond actually has pretty good, decent numbers for, you know, for where we're located along the route. So I can definitely forward that report out to you folks.
Do the riders pay for anything?
Yes.
They pay,
What-
I think
what's
it's
that
$3 per trip, and they can also get monthly passes or punch cards. And while they're on there, as Teresa pointed out, they have like Wi-Fi and different things so people can actually work to and from it. So that's one of the amenities that make it so attractive. So
Do you happen to know what's at the other end where they arrive in Portland?
they,
That would do me a bit of good, because it
they,
never would
I
be
can't
where I wanted
remember.
to
I
go.
think it's the bus terminal.
It's called Metro.
Woodford, yeah.
Metro.
Yeah, it's right
So-
across the street from the library.
Exactly, so that's
For
where
all
they
the
can get
buses
on.
coming.
Exactly, so then from there, they can then transfer for free onto the Portland buses.
Right, you can also, the thing has a bike rack on it, so you can put your bicycle on it. Some of the folks here do that, and then ride to their office from there on the bicycle.
And then the other thing to remember is maybe it's not necessarily Portland you want to go to, or maybe it's just like going to Bridgeton and taking your bike with you and then riding the trails there, or even one of the other towns. So, and they're hoping to get more stops and make them more centralized so that they're easier and better for the patrons. So.
Back in June of 2014, Lakes Region Bus Service submitted an assessment of the program from its inception of December 2013 to June 2014, which would encompass about 102 working days. There were 132 departures, 122 arrivals in the town of Raymond. So really you're looking at 102 working, 2.08 round trips daily in that period of time. Again, that report was issued back in June of 2014. It doesn't indicate any growth that the program may have absorbed since that time. But again, we're looking at 2 people using it daily, round trips.
I said small, that's small, right?
Yeah, this is 5,000. Does this take care of like the maintenance on the bus too? I mean, is that what it goes towards?
They have a detailed budget which we can get to you that outlines all their costs, but I'm assuming so, yeah. It takes into account maintenance, the capital replacement of the bus, all the different elements of running the bus service, the drivers, the fuel, the maintenance, yeah.
Okay, so that's
But we
what
can
they're asking.
we can get you their budget and send it out.
Well, that's what they're asking. This $5,000 is basically going to take care of. It's like a
Well, they're asking for that
contract.
amount of money. The question really is, they're asking for that amount of money from all the towns on the route. So what happens if, 1 or 2 or whatever towns don't participate? Will the bus continue? What's the reaction of the towns that do? Is there one? I don't really know. They're now going to the next step, which is we've had the bus running for a period of time. We've successfully, performed this route. They've been very reliable that way, and it's available. And so now they're saying, do you find value in it? Is there some, local buy-in to it? Is it worth $5,000 to you to have this? Is I guess the question really. And then I can't tell you next year it won't be some other number or whatever. They didn't tell us that, but it could well be. I can't tell you the ridership is going to go, stratospherically through the roof. I don't know as it will. It may be incrementally increase over time, but as I said at the outset, I don't think it's ever going to be something that you're going to say, wow, this is making a lot of money, or breaking even. It just doesn't work that way. Public transportation. Maybe in Washington D.C. or in Boston it does, but not in rural states.
Don, any feeling about the other surrounding towns or the towns on the route? How they?
Well, I don't know. The
What are
only
they
people at the
putting in their
meeting, I think Wyndham had a representative from the Economic Development Department, but Raymond was represented at Wyndham, and I suggested that they do outreach to the other towns and to gauge their interest. And so I don't know. I know they've gone out and had meetings with them, but I don't know how it has gone. And it could have been. There was a meeting in Wyndham, and we were represented, and they'd hoped to get all the town managers to that meeting and try to gauge what their interest was, but it didn't happen. So we could probably find out. We could ask them a question, see how they're feeling about that.
In terms of planning services with Sebago Technics, I see a $5,000 increase on that line item. Is that because of additional hours required, or are we giving them a raise?
The contract is increasing due to hourly rates. So, and I just want to be clear that even though we budget this amount, like if things are slow and we don't need them, we don't have them come in. So we may not necessarily use the money, but as Chris pointed out, with things getting busier, the planning department is also, like, when I first started, I'd say we maybe met every other month, and now we might even have to go back to twice a month some months, because we're getting more applications than normal.
That would,
So.
if there's no increase in number of hours, that's a pretty hefty hourly increase. That's a 23% increase in hourly wages.
Well, what happened is, in previous days, I can't remember if it was last year, I think we went over a little bit in it because we didn't allot enough money for it because we needed Jim so much. And then this year with the increase, we wanted to make sure that there was enough of a buffer. It's like $5 an hour, but you know, to also adjust for what we've been actually using him for.
So you are anticipating more hours then?
Yes, in a sense, yeah. Because I can't remember, I think last year we might have gone over by like $2,000 or $3,000. I'm not sure because I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah.
We can get that information though.
Do we utilize these same planning services for IRT projects?
No, because we can't. So we have to, what we did is we took some of the budget that was allocated to the IRT projects and hired another planner because Sebago Technics is actually also our engineer, so we can't have them on both ends of the spectrum. So we chose them for our engineering services over planning services in that case, just because, you know, we're already working with them.
What is the community forest project?
That's a Coneska Road purchase from Hancock Lumber. That was a Loon Echo Land Trust purchase. The town donated, I think, $10,000 last year.
Yep.
And we were told that was gonna be it. And now all of a sudden we're getting hit with another $10,000.
So that's what that is?
Yeah.
So could we ask like John Rand or who's that other person, from Loon Echo?
Kerry Wall.
Terry
Yeah.
Wall, yeah.
Can we get some kind of explanation on that?
An explanation?
Yes.
Yeah, we can ask for
I
that.
can give an update if you'd like. I mean, so the Raymond Community Forest idea is to preserve the land, as Joe said, up on Coneska, 300 and something acres. It's, as you said, the town provided some of the funding last year. Hancock is providing the land at a reduced rate, but there's still about $127,000 that needs to be raised from the public. So far this year there's about $56,000, I think it's been raised. The total cost of purchase, and I'm sorry I'm pulling these numbers from somewhere, $570,000 or something in that area. So
It was actually 400.
is it? Okay, thanks, Joe. So it's up there. It's a big number. The goal is it's the land that actually goes right up close to the top of Pismire. So it's pretty nice land, and it would be made available for public access. Ultimately, if it's successful in terms of the fundraising, which has to be completed by December 31st of this year, the town would then vote as to whether or not the land is owned by the town or whether it's owned by, managed by, or owned by Loon Echo Land Trust. They're open to either way of doing that. So I think we've gotten some funding from a number of state and private foundations. That's, kind of think about those numbers, roughly $500,000. Town gave $10,000. We gave $55,000. There's a big gap there. A lot of it came from foundations and also from the Don. What's the state?
Land for Main Future.
Thank you very much. Who provided? Unfortunately, one of the grants that they were hoping would come through did not. So it means that the gap is a little bit larger than had originally been anticipated.
So who puts together the community development services and put this line in there then?
That line for the
10,000.
the 10,000 is from the conservation. That's the conservation committee's request for additional funding. And I wouldn't speak to John's because I'm not a member of that.
Bob? Don, Director of Development.
Yes, that is something, a recognition of the work that's being done, additional work being done by one of our current employees. Danielle Loring to support the Raymond Revitalization Committee, and I think Sam can add to this. But she's done a wonderful job this year in providing economic development assistance to the group, coordinating materials, information, researching projects and proposals, successful in receiving a community development block grant. That was largely her work. So she really has taken on this task in a significant way, where there's no other staff person that is in that particular field, and I think she's done a very good job at that. So this is something that the Revitalization Committee supports and hopes that you'll support, to continue to have that level of support for their efforts, and they have a relatively modest budget. Our economic development budget in sum total is extremely modest, and so this is an additional amount towards salary to recognize that work that she does do for them, for the town, and has done successfully over the last year. And I think when Sam was chair, we said let's give it a year and see how she does, and I think by all accounts she's done an extraordinary great job. So that's our end of the bargain, if you will. We said give you a year and see what you can do, and so we're now at that year.
The only thing I would add to that is that Danielle is obviously up to speed with the knowledge that she needs and the expertise she needs to carry this out. And we've been observing her not only as the Revitalization Committee, but as a select person.
One more question on the Conservation Commission. How much is in the tree growth penalty fund?
Well, there was $30-some thousand that we said we would use $30,000 from the open space fund for the community forest. So it's quite low now, it's like $6,000 after that $30,000 comes out, assuming the community forest project goes through.
Yeah, just looping back on the community development, on the ordinance update, I guess the same question would be, if it's an hourly increase, then that's a 25% increase. My guess is it's the same kind of thing you're anticipating, and yet, didn't we have a very heavy ordinance kind of updating, and aren't we through that? Or are you anticipating?
There's a possible more. If we go forward with the LiDAR update, we're also going to have to revise some of the resource protection areas, which would involve her. And also, one of the things that she was going to help us with is part of the comprehensive plan does not involve kind of like the commercial district and what to do with our economic development. And she was going to help us do that if we had enough budget left over. So, because kind of ordinance updates are tricky, because right now the state of Maine has just done a bunch of changes to law under Chapter 1000, which is the shoreline zoning having to do with volume and expansions and so on and so forth. And Chris can touch upon that some more. So that's going to part's going to have to be more rewritten. And then lately people have been coming forward to us with specific ordinances, and that's what's kind of driven some of it. And I know the planning board's going to continue to look at shoreline zoning as well as different development standards to make our commercial district more friendly. So it's kind of a complex issue. We have a lot of things. We keep an ongoing list, and then we try to chip away with them as the budget permits. So
Sounds like you're going to be busy.
Well, that's the idea. Is that all?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I don't know if this is for Daniel or not, but in addition to the 3,000, are there any other funds in the budget for the Revitalization Committee?
Not specifically. There is like a $7,000 economic development line item that we utilize to support them, but it's not specifically for them now.
But it's typical that we would expend monies from that line to support the initiatives that are undertaken by the revitalization committee, so. It's not specifically for them, but we have supported some of the initiatives that they have, you know, recommended.
And that was how much?
Did you say 7,000?
7,000?
Yeah.
And what percent of that goes to that committee,
No.
roughly?
Well, it's not
Not at
obligated
all.
to the committee. I couldn't give you that. I mean, we'd have to look at it. I think the answer is probably
No,
zero,
the
because
answer is-
the answer is zero.
The answer is zero. We
Yeah.
have no budget on the revitalization committee. Our bank account is at zero, and we have no budget. We spend no money, except for lunch.
I think what they do is to help to focus the town on areas that are worthy of investigation and study. And so that's what they do, and then the town would decide whether it wanted to pursue that based on their recommendations, selectmen input, other inputs, your input, people's input, that are part of the process of developing the budget.
So it doesn't go
To them directly, no.
into the committee?
No, it isn't like we drop a check in their account, no.
It doesn't go to us indirectly either.
Well, there seems to be a different, I interpret what you say different than what Don says. I agree that, I believe that no money goes into a fund for that committee. But the committee is obviously causing the town to expend money. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, that's very possible, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason the committee exists, as I understand it, is you have a number of active and retired professionals who are volunteering their time to try to help the town, along with assistance from a staff person, Danielle, to explore avenues of economic development, community improvement and development. I mean, the brochure, the community brochure, tourism brochure is one example. But so we have volunteers in this, you know, separate entity that receives no, you know, direct funding, but does have the ability to make recommendations to the town, and then the town has a small amount of money from which it could make expenditures, which are approved by me, and or, you know, if they're applicable, the other, you know, boards of the town, specifically the selectmen, if it was applicable, but typically it's not. I mean, once the budget is set, it's up to the staff to try to make something of the budget in the area for which it is obligated. So they make recommendations, they have some input into that. Not everything in that budget is as a consequence of those inputs or recommendations. Some things that we do are related to ideas and or projects that they think would be beneficial to the town.
So that committee appears to me to be operating sort of as an unpaid consultant to the town.
A volunteer, committee, unpaid consultants, sure. Those are both true.
In fact, you're all invited to a meeting if you'd like to go.
It's like a big think tank, so it's where we get a lot of ideas from them. Like the incubator came from attending one of those meetings, and we followed one lead, and before you knew it, we were on our way to a planning grant.
Without going too crazy, give them the latest idea, which is the, I mean, not the full plan so far, but the July 4th issue.
Yep.
This will give you an example of something they're thinking about.
So I'm working with Carrie Colby, the chairperson of the revitalization committee. At their last meeting, they decided that they wanted to do activity for Raymond that kind of gave back to the community in terms of, you know, showed our pride, and as well as gave families something to do. So we chose the 4th of July as the event that we're going to do, and hopefully we'll have parades, festivities such as like pie eating contests and dunk tanks, bounce houses, you know, fireworks, you know, a whole bunch of stuff that, you know, because if you look at all the other communities, they're all participating and doing stuff. How this will be different is that Raymond won't have a budget that's directly supporting this, so instead we're looking for volunteer efforts, sponsors, and you know, artisans and crafters to come out and help make this a great event so that hopefully maybe in the future it will become a, you know, a town supported thing. But right now we're gonna see what we can make of it. And so if you want to join us on March 13th, next Friday at 6 o'clock, you can come down to the Public Safety Building and join me and a bunch of other volunteers and share your ideas and, you know, make this something great for Raymond, because it deserves it. So.
And so that's just one example where they're working to try to do something that would, you know, develop some interest and a happening, if you will, in the community without a town appropriation. And you remember Founder's Day? I remember Founder's Day. I love Founder's Day because Raymond and the Simpsons have Founder's Day, but we don't have Founder's Day anymore. I think the Simpsons still do. So we're going back to try to do something along the lines of that kind of a community building event, having a festival and everybody around has one. And so I think that it can't hurt to raise our visibility and to promote a sense of community and to get people together. And it's going to be a challenge, though. It's got to have, you know, some things that are going to draw folks. And it's not the Blues Festival up the street. It won't be that. Or the Brew Festival, I guess, up the street. Won't be that. It's maybe Casco Days would be the closest, although that's a long ways out. Something like that is really a long-standing tradition that has great followership. But that's what they're hoping for, I think.
It's part of the branding process that we're looking at for the town.
Any questions on community development?
Yes. I'll come back to Nancy. On that 30,000 for tree growth, can you just tell me where that's going again?
Last year at town meeting, it was voted to use $30,000 of that open space money for the community forest project.
Which is connected.
In addition to 20,000 from the timber sale. Yes.
So there's 50,000.
That's correct.
And then another 10 from the selectmen, and another 10 now. Is that what we're looking at, really?
50 from last June, and then this request for 10.
Any questions? Animal control.
Animal control, total request $16,180, an increase of $310. It's a small increase in the cost of the contract of the Animal Refuge League in Westbrook. We are exploring regionalization of our efforts with Casco and Naples. Now, both Raymond and Casco are all in on this, but Naples was kind of the one that wasn't. They've had a change in town manager, and because he told us the issue was somewhere else. The present town manager tells us that it was the town manager. So I don't know if who was the problem was in Naples, but apparently we're all using the same animal control officer. We're all doing the same thing. We need to have backup and, you know, a deputy available probably in each town. And so the Naples town manager said, "Hey, let's work together." We said, "What a great idea! That's the idea we had, you know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago." So hopefully that'll happen, and we can have a small savings. Maybe we can negotiate one contract with the Animal Refuge League. Maybe we can share traps. I don't know what we can do, but we're going to look at that. We're sharing the same person, though, so it makes sense to try to work together.
Question? Public Works.
Well, hopefully this is pretty quick and simple. We had a couple increases in the Public Works counts. The snowplow contract is up $4,400 this year. Road striping is up $2,160. That's going to be to add fog lines to the rest of the roads that we don't already fog line, the white lines on the edge of the road. Roadside mowing, there again, that's in the contract that we renegotiated. That went up $1,800, and that is solely other things that we have added to the roadside mowing. There's some bush hogging that we do that wasn't in the original contract that we were already paying for. We just shuffled it into that contract. Uniforms and safety shoes are up $500 to reflect the actual cost. And shop supplies and safety equipment is up $500 to reflect actual cost.
Questions?
Nathan, seasonal labor, this past year was the first year in a number of years that we brought in seasonal help.
Correct.
Were there 2 or 4?
2.
There were 2.
Yeah.
And they worked 40-hour work week?
No, they worked, I think the highest they worked was 30. They were running in that range, but we stretched the time out longer. Instead of the original projected time, we stretched them into the fall to cover vacation time for the town crew. They did some flagging for us and some other jobs. That worked out very well. It was the 302 Beautification Committee. Absolutely, they had nothing but the best to say about it, and I think the product showed 302 corridor was probably the best it's ever been. There was a lot of little jobs that they did for us after they were done with that 302 cleanup that helped, and I've got a list already going for them for the summer. But I think it was great to have them get a lot more done.
Being seasonal, they don't have any benefits.
No.
They make their base salary as
Correct.
as requested.
We actually used one of them this winter for plowing. We had a vacancy in Public Works, and I brought him in to help us plow for a couple of snowstorms, so that helped us out too.
How do you stand with filling your vacancy?
We're just getting ready to do interviews next week.
With our fun season we've had, how's your overtime budget this year?
So far, so good. I don't think we even hit 100 hours yet.
We did apply though for federal crisis funds because it snowed. Did you know that?
Hadn't noticed.
Yeah, but no. It's, I mean, I'm a firm believer. You know, as a good liberal, if the federal government's giving out money, we might as well get right in line, right, Joe?
Always a great idea.
So they're giving out money apparently, or maybe, right, Chief? So we got our request in a little over $20,000,
Yeah.
roughly. So you know, it'd be a shame for everybody to get a payment from the federal government and not us. So we did account for our costs, additional costs that, in all seriousness, they're related to the extreme weather, and we're going to put our request in with the rest of them. See what happens.
We got quite a few emails this year. You've had a rough winter with your equipment, with trucks breaking down, stuff like that.
Yeah, we've had some minor. The International's given us the bulk of the problems through the winter.
So is that planned?
That's in the CIP for replacement.
Okay, and is there any other trucks that need to be, that are
We-
close, that are begging, that the duct tape's wearing off, or?
Well, it's all added into the CIP.
Okay.
We can talk about that when we get to that.
Keep getting put off on the CIP.
Well, I could go on about it if you want. Well, I might be.
No.
We're almost there.
I know, I have it on the list before the IRT.
We're almost there.
Nathan, winter sand, how's our supply stand right now, and do we anticipate needing to bring in the same amount as we expended this current fiscal year?
We went through a little over 6,300 yards last year. We budget for 4,000. The last I checked with Nancy, we're at 54% of the budget, and we have hauled sand since then. That I have not got the bill yet. We're going to probably the end of January. We've been through 3,000 yards, and I haven't done the tally for February yet. We'll be all right. We'll be all right.
Right, you're currently buying and bringing it in.
Correct.
Is
Yes.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Your intent to start talking on extending the snowplow budget?
That'll cap in the summer. Yeah, we'll sit down with them and talk again.
Clearly,
This is the end of the.
after they forgot about it.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to forget about this winter or last winter. But this is the end of the 3-year contract with them.
I just want to say thank you, Nathan. I travel these roads quite often.
Well,
I
I got
do.
a good bunch of guys that are helping me out.
You
I
do.
couldn't
You
do it
have
myself.
a good bunch of guys that are working on the roads, and what they did this summer was really nice on Valley Road, and
They
the
put
roads
a- they
really
put a
look,
lot
they're
of
really
effort
coming
into it.
together.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Marshall?
I gotta take the other side of this one, Nathan, I'm sorry.
No, it's not a problem.
When you go from North Raymond Road from Raymond to Gray, there's a major difference when you hit the Gray town line. The road is much cleaner. Is there a reason for that? Or
Salt.
Are they using different products?
Yeah, they're using, they have a salt priority program. They're done with all town vehicles that have ground speed control so they can measure the salt. North Raymond Road is done by our contractor.
Right, I knew
And
that.
to add that ground speed control to his trucks. I don't even think that truck you could put it on, I think it's too old. We salt 85 and 121 in Egypt Road in the morning to get them cleared up. There are occasions that we do salt North Raymond Road, but it's last on the list. So you're probably seeing it after 7 o'clock. I think the earliest we went over there is about 7:15 to salt that.
Don't take it as a complaint.
No.
I'm just curious as to why
Yeah.
there was such a difference.
Gray has a different program than we do, obviously with Salt Priority. His trucks are salting on their last trip around. And we have to wait
could
for our
be it
truck to
right
go
there,
to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
They don't brine down there at all?
Nope. Nope. Salt and calcium.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on Public Works?
I'll go again. You've got crew person 2 through 4 at the same hourly rate. So how's the seasoned employees feel about getting the same pay as the new guy coming on board?
There's seasonal help. That's what we
No.
pay.
Your crew person 2 through 4
Correct.
make the same amount per hour.
That's correct.
So the new guy will be crew person 4, making the same amount as the guys that have been here for years?
No, he'll be started at a lesser rate. We haven't determined what that rate is. Depends on experience.
So that line item may...
I would anticipate that to get somebody, we're gonna have to be at that 17.78 an hour. The gentleman that left went for, I believe it was $20 or $21 an hour. And what we're running into right now is the private sector and other towns are paying more than that.
Yeah.
But
Well, I was gonna say that it's dependent. I mean, we're gonna try to get the very best qualified person that we can. And so, to answer the question, if we get somebody who has equal to greater than capabilities, even though the folks have been here, I think they understand the world and the marketplace, and so, you get somebody with the best qualifications you can within the budget. If we get somebody who has lesser qualifications, we may start at a lesser rate, but we need to have the money that we have available. We're gonna try to improve our functionality and our capabilities of our crew with this hire. So we're gonna try to get somebody who has the most advanced qualifications we can get for the money. And I don't think, I mean, we have a great crew. I don't think anybody's gonna complain about that.
no, I don't think they will.
I mean, if we get somebody who, I mean, the issue of making the same amount of money, I guess that's the question. If they can do the job and have the skills, I think the guys would appreciate the idea that they would be paid.
Other questions? Thanks, Nathan. There's nothing.
Well, I do have something I want to say.
Okay.
I think it's, even though provider agencies are 0, I think it's maybe useful to know who asked. Do you want to know who asked?
Be great.
Okay. So, who asked? The first one is the Biddeford Free Clinic, $500. They apparently have actually people who use that from Raymond. The Greater Bridgeton Lake Region Chamber of Commerce asked for $1,000. The Home Health Visiting Nurses asked for $500. The Maine Public Broadcasting Network asked for $100. The Regional Transportation Program asked for $1,000. Sexual Assault Response Services of Southern Maine, $500. Southern Maine Agency on Aging, $500. Tri-County Mental Health, $500. The total request was $4,600. And because in keeping with prior years, it's been a number of years now, we did not fund it, recommend any of those, but I thought since we should probably tell you who asked, because that was the game plan here of how the budget would be considered.
CIP.
CIP, okay. The total request is $1,199,386, an increase of $29,728. And what I have here are the Public Works equipment, an increase to replace aging equipment, $50,000. Nathan can explain that in detail. Chief's here for the fire department. He's got tank 1, marine 1, 5-inch hose conversion. The fire department requests $91,500. Bond payment for the fire truck, sand salt shed, estimated payment $105,000. 2013 road improvement bond, first full year, principal amount $177,000. Technology equipment upgrade request $51,749. And then the Patricia Avenue recreational facility, $136,000. Those are the notes I have for CIP.
Questions?
Alright, Hertz. Alright, Public Works, since you were right there. What do you have in here as far as, like, so you're looking to replace some trucks then,
We're
or?
gonna, well, I said the International, but I misspoke. We've got a 1988 F800 that I think has probably worn its welcome out. The plan is to take the International and move that into the backup position that the F800 does right now and replace the International with a new truck. I put in $50,000 increase for the anticipation of financing that truck over 2 years. The pricing, off the cuff numbers are coming in where it wouldn't work. So we're gonna have to stretch that out for 3-year payments if we do it that way. That's gonna move one of our pickup trucks, the 04, another couple of years out. And we will have to step it up again, probably in the 3 to 4 year mark to cover the backhoe or anything bigger than a pickup truck. It's a tough number to hit. It's been to try to. You're looking at a piece of equipment that's $165,000 and trying to anticipate when that thing is going to wear out. The International's 7 years old. It's really a tough number.
Okay. Just wanna make sure there's something in there, cause I know that we were getting emails of things breaking down in
We
snow
replaced
and everything else.
We replaced the 550 last year. That was scheduled to be replaced. We had to do it a little early in January. It had a catastrophic heart attack, I guess you'd call it. So we replaced that truck last year, and we replaced the pewter pickup this year. That was a truck that we bought used, that the rust and repairs were getting ahead of it. The 04 pickup's in pretty good shape. The rest of the stuff is surplus. We've got a used Volvo we bought 3 years ago now, I believe it is. It's a wheeler dump truck that seems to be holding together all right. The sweeper, to put a replacement date on that, we bought, the original one came from the town of Gray. We got 15, 18 years out of that. The one we got right now we bought from Freeport, and we're on year number 4 with that. Those are kind of things that you try to hobble together for as long as you can. The sweeper's $130,000, $140,000 item that you're going to use once a year. So to stay, I guess, competitive or efficiently, you need to buy that used. The grader, that was replaced 4 years ago now? 5 years ago?
No, probably not that long ago,
4,
maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
We had an opportunity to upgrade the one we had. It was state surplus, and that will stay here until we get another opportunity to upgrade it, and I don't see that happening for 8 to 10 years down the road. Those are 2 pretty big items right there.
The quick answer is when something better than what we have that we can trade to for almost nothing, revenue neutral, our mantra, we'll do it. We traded out the grader for almost nothing, just a few $1,000s, as in $4,000 or $5,000. The sweeper, we got an opportunity to pick up Freeport sweeper. The one we got, guess what? It makes dust. Did you know that? When it sweeps, it makes dust. But they can't have that in Freeport because the merchants, and they don't like the dust, so they went to one that's dustless. And so that was a good sweeper at a good price, and so we've got one that makes dust, but otherwise works fine, because that's the old technology. And so if we can find something better that we can get to for almost no money, we will.
If we can stretch this one out another 7 or 8 years, Freeport will be getting rid of theirs. And
then we'll be into the age of dustless sweeping.
Is there a balance being carried forward in that reserve account?
Yes, there is.
How much is it?
I believe right now it's in 20,000, I think it is right now. 20 or 19 or 20,000, I don't know. 20. And we have one more payment on the 550, and that is 20,000. That's in January of next year.
Where is that on?
That would be, I don't have that on my paperwork. I think that's.
I don't have it.
That's in the budget.
I get your reserve, but I don't have the detail.
Well, if it was CIP, it would be coming out of the carry forward, so it would have been budgeted in the prior year.
So after that payment, you have 0 in that account?
No, we will have a $20,000 carryover balance. The payment for the second payment, the final payment for that 550 will come out of the July 2015 budget. That payment's already been made in January. So we will have July 1st, 85 plus 20, which is 100,000. And then you take the 20 out of that, so we'll have 85,000 after July 1st. It kind of moves itself. Did I explain that correctly, Nancy? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I follow.
We had a vehicle go down, a plowing vehicle go down, and we were able to get a truck from Gray.
This time we borrowed a truck from Gray, yeah.
Is that a seasonal arrangement, or is that?
No, that's a broken truck. Call up a couple of towns so you can find a truck and go get it.
That's a credit to Nathan's excellent personality and congenial manner, because we are able, get this, we're able to borrow stuff without returning any favors, which is a testament to how well Nathan's liked.
Typically, we can.
Or maybe he doesn't like his return favors.
No, we don't have anything, we actually don't have much to offer. I asked that question. So what do we have occasionally loaned equipment, but we don't have much to offer. I mean, we have basically just what we need. We don't have spares and reserves. So they were kind enough to help us, and we appreciate that. So that was very good of them.
We typically will borrow something from P&K, but unfortunately, when our truck broke down, they already had 2 trucks down with no spare. Naples had 2 trucks down with no spare, so we were in pretty dire straits there. I went over groveling to get a truck from Gray, which really wasn't much to begin with.
But it was better than nothing, and they let us have it. So
correct. Yeah.
So we say thank you to Greg, really.
Yeah.
It's been a rough winter on equipment anyways.
I'm done with you.
No.
You're doing well. I want to ask.
I may have one, I'm not sure where it goes. It's on the municipal facilities maintenance and improvements, and it's just an accounting question. CIP versus budget expended? Why in CIP?
We did it in CIP so I could carry the money forward. We've been saving up money for projects like the town office renovation. I believe that's a $25,000 a year a budgeted number. The town office projects have been running anywhere from 10 to this one's 36,000. The next upgrade's fuel pumps at the Public Works garage. That's going to be in the mid-30s. And I felt that it would be a little easier to just do $25,000 a year, save it up, and then expend it.
Going to see some major changes to the town office. I think that if for the better. Our new town clerk has been very instrumental in working on that with Nathan and Chris, and so hopefully very soon we're going to have that work start, huh?
Yeah, we're supposed to meet with the contractor this week.
Oh, great.
And is that mostly
front office?
Visual?
No.
Inside.
Oh, no, functional.
Yeah.
And I suppose visual, I guess, and it'll definitely be we're going to meet, handicap accessibility requirements, which we don't really talk about, but we're going to address any outstanding issues that might exist. We're going to, come up with new workstations, ergonomically correct workstations. It's going to be, more convenient, I think, for the customers, a better workspace for the employees, and we're going to have a very novel thing, and that's a break room. So we're going to have that, and there's going to be a number of improvements, and we could actually send if you want to see the layout, we could send it out to you so you could see it. But it's I think it's a significant positive change, and I would attribute a lot of that, the push on that, to our new clerk, who has been very interested and excited about this project. And I frankly, each one of them, because I've kind of bought into the idea of the Raymond idea, which is to keep costs as low as possible, and maybe to an extreme, position sometimes. I has been hesitant about putting anything but necessity type work into the town office, but it is even clear to me now that probably a new town office ain't happening, so we must do something to improve that front office, and that's what we're going to do. So the old meeting room goes away and it becomes, a different space, which we'll send you the concept on.
It takes away the historic value of it now.
Oh no, it's still there, but believe me, everything is still there. If you go in the attic, you can see everything's still there. It's all still there. You can take down the walls and put it back if you want to someday.
There's a $25,000 budget item, are you carrying a balance forward in that one also?
Yes, there's a little over 50,000 in that account right now.
How about the road maintenance?
Road maintenance, we've got the bond. I would anticipate expending that bond this year. We've got the second half of Valley Road to do. Main Street's already got a contract out on it and signed. And I believe there's a couple overlays, there's Spiller Hill and Mountain Road, and I think that will expend the bond money. There's a little under $500,000 in the paving CIP account that'll carry us next year and the year on. That'll give us a little bit more of a jump start, and that was planned in the whole paving project, was to build that account up a little bit. We will spend some of that money this year for crack sealing. I've got a couple of parking lots we're going to do a little bit more than just patching them.
Is the state going to come back and fix what's already breaking on?
85?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess probably not. I'm pretty proud of that. Political patch.
Much of a patch anymore.
Yeah, that's what we call it.
There's some giant holes already.
The sidewalk project on Main Street, is that coming out of CIP?
No, there's money budgeted for that. That was in the last year's town meeting. Our contribution to that, I believe, is $35,000, and the grant match is, I think the whole project's a little over $30,000.
Let's follow up on that. Are you planning on plowing that, or snow blowing it, or
Yes,
whatever?
yes. By state law, if you put them out there, you're going to maintain them in the winter.
And is there budget, is that money budgeted?
No, it is not budgeted. The sidewalks won't be in play this budget.
Does that mean you have to buy a snow blower or
No,
one of
that'll be
those?
contracted out.
Contract?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Nate. I'm all set with Nate. You guys? I'm done. Okay.
Bruce, I think you're probably next.
Good to go?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, what exactly is Tank 1 and Marine 1 refurbishments, the 91,000?
Tank 1 and Marine 1, and there's a piece of that missing, so I'll get to that piece in a minute. Marine 1 is a paint project for the large boat that we got through the state surplus at $14,000. It's a $250,000 asset. It does need paint. It's an aluminum hull, etc., but it's starting to show some signs that the paint is faded from it, is peeling off from it, and we're getting some corrosion issues with the boat where the similar metals and stuff touch. So we need to redo the paint on that to get that back to looking where it should be and protected. Tank 1, and we've got a couple show and tell items, but I can tell you what they are. Tank 1 refurbishment, it has some plumbing issues, it has some wiring issues, it has lighting issues. There are a myriad of issues going on with the truck. It's an older truck, and in order to prolong its life so we can get another 6 or 8, 10 years out of it, we need to put some money into it. We need to make an investment into it. We did it with Tank 2, 2005, and we basically retrofitted that truck. We're not looking at going that much in depth with Tank 1. We have, like I said, the plumbing issues, and I think if Kathy wants to hand that around, I can show you one little piece of pipe, and you can see what normal wear and tear is done to the inside of this thing. It's ripping the plumbing apart in the truck, and we need to spend some money on it, or it's basically going to be defunct. One of the ball valves on top here is this is a typical wear item that we replace constantly. I can hand that around. Be careful with this item here, but it's really interesting to look at the inside of it, and this is one of 2 that I've already replaced this year. This is just one short piece of pipe, but this is just an example of what's going on with the innards of this truck, everything that's inside that nice shiny outer red shell. And there's no way to maintain that other than to replace the stuff as it goes bad. So a bunch of threaded pipes, a bunch of valves, and they all add up to quite a bit of money. But it's interesting how that wore on the inside, and that's just normal wear and tear of water moving through that piping.
Stop using salt water.
You know, it kind of looks that way, but it isn't.
Because we do draw on ponds, right?
We do draw from ponds, and a lot of the stuff that happens, like that metal ball valve, you can see the scratches, and it doesn't look that gouged, but that was bad enough to cause it to be replaced at, a couple $100 for that thing. But anyways, it's the sand that gets that. This thing here is just normal wear and tear and water flowage. So those are some of the things that we need to do to preserve this truck, to make it last so that we can get the rest of its 20-25 years. But let's add into that amount, the 90-something, I don't have my glasses, hang on. 91,000 is $74,000 for a large diameter hose grant. Large diameter hose purchase. There's two phases or two pieces to this piece of the puzzle. We've put in the third year in a row now for a grant for this item, for these items, if you will. Basically, it's to increase the size of our supply hose from 4-inch to 5-inch. It upgrades our supply hose so that we match our surrounding towns, and we're now compatible with our surrounding towns. It is becoming an issue when we go to fires or our surrounding towns come to help us. Our stuff is becoming incompatible. We can't hook a 5-inch to a 4-inch hose. It takes adapters and things like that, and we're always running into problems with it. So we need to upgrade that. Not only that, most of our 4-inch hose is at 20 years of age, which it needs to be replaced. It's expensive, so we applied for a grant through the Fire Act. Unfortunately, 3 years in a row we've been turned down. We don't know quite why. We were successful for a long time with grants. We got our air packs, we've got our turnout gear, etc., replaced through grants, and have gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars out of it. But what we need to do is we need to plan for it in the budget. Because it's such a large item for a one-time purchase, we thought we'd put it into CIP. If we get the grant, obviously we wouldn't expend this money, and it could be turned back, is really our goal. There was a slight match that goes along with that, and it was what, $3,500, round figures, and don't quote me to the exact penny, obviously. That's where this year's request is, and that's for an expenditure. The ongoing 75 is for ongoing replacement of apparatus, is to replace the ambulances and the trucks as they come up. And as you can see, if you look at the spreadsheet and the plan throughout the years, we have certain things that are coming up. We've got roofing on the station, we've got vinyl windows that need replacing, flooring that needs replacing in the stations. We're looking outward and planning for a solar project to help control our costs of electricity. I've been speaking with Jeff Sparrow, who's been in contact with Town Manager Willard about doing what is it called? It's a purchase agreement, anyways, with the
buyback. I actually sent him an email just before this meeting, so apparently you've been talking to him.
I have been, as we research this and look at it. Now, we really don't have any money allocated or requested for that particular project, but we have some monies in here, as you see, lumped together. There's a bunch of items. We'll get to that too. But we're looking at the future and trying to control our costs, etc. We're doing the LED light project right now, and that's not out of a capital plan, but it came up, the opportunity, so we said let's take advantage of this and see what we can do to save our town some money. As we look out in the out years here, we have a bigger expense in 16-17, looking at $250,000, and that's again a budgetary figure at this time. We're not asking for that particular amount right at this moment, but what we are looking at is replacing flooring, doors, etc., things like windows at District 1 station. It's general upgrades, but
Which doors are you talking about?
actually, in that proposal, that would be District 2 overhead doors.
And what's wrong with those?
And those are 30 years old, and
30 years old?
Yeah, overhead doors that are about 30 years old. The openers need to be replaced. We need to have safety components replaced on them. It has basically no safety features on the doors, so if they come down on trucks, etc.
Well, back up a little bit more. You're talking about the 75,000.
That's okay. I've gone past that.
No,
I'm sorry.
and that's one of my
I've gone
questions
too
I was
fast.
talking about with the 75,000, because I misspoke that you don't have 350,000 in the account. I checked with Nancy. There's 238,000 in your account.
Correct.
I called you a little pot of gold, because to me, that's pot of gold. 75,000 you're adding on top of that. I know you budget and you plan for apparatus.
Correct.
I know, just looking at this budget, not a lot of the other departments do that and build that little fund. As far as the fire truck, we paid $275,000, I think, cash for payment for that, and we're bonding the rest.
175.
175?
The chassis.
Why is
believe that
not
was it.
more money put on that to get rid of that bond sooner, instead of keeping it in I want to say a savings account or whatever you want to call
Right,
it. Do you know what I mean? And I know you have to buy apparatus. I know you have
Correct.
to do that, but it seems to me is looking at these things, you're well planned out. You're well. When I think some of the other departments were like, okay, let's just get through this season. This type.
I think first to address that, if you look at the expenditures in the years out, you'll see that what we have and what's gonna go in is actually, I think what's going in is actually short of the
Short.
request when you look at the total 5-year plan.
Well, and I
That the
did.
total,
And I did look at that, and I think
Yeah.
one of the things that you're talking about, solar energy and metal roof and stuff like that, to me, that would be something, instead of putting it in for the plan, that you bring it to the town to ask them with a proposal, instead of just, I guess,
Yeah.
budgeting for it.
in that this isn't really a budget, but showing you the plan in the out years, yes. The 75,000 that goes in every year was part of an ongoing plan that actually was cut in 2005 from 180,000, I believe, according to the cover letter I'm looking at here, dropped down to 85 and then to 75,000 as part of our ongoing replacement plan for apparatus. What we decided to do in those years after that was to bond a lot of our equipment. We bonded engine 1 in one of the ambulances that we purchased and said we needed to add that 75 back in, or so we could be assured we'd have an ongoing replacement funding, if you will, for the apparatus.
Well, in your ambulance
So
program,
the ambulance will be
it's every so many
100
years, I think is
and-
what it is.
What's the figure? 126 next year if we stay with the same plan, which is the 4-year rotation on ambulances.
And then
So
that's
that
next year?
group buy.
would be 180,000.
If you didn't have this plan for the 4 years.
Correct.
It would cost us approximately 126,000.
And you do this every 4 years?
Yes. 4 years per
So
ambulance.
it's 4 years
Right.
per ambulance.
So every 2 years, a new ambulance under this plan.
Which puts an ambulance in that's always under warranty, and we save the cost of those items, which go up exponentially as soon as you hit that. Ironically, as soon as you hit the expiration of your warranty, imagine that, cost of maintenance goes through the roof. The reliability also goes to the roof, well, to the floor, I guess, at that point, and we find we have issues. So does that answer that? I mean, the 75 has always gone in as it's been something that's just an ongoing
Like a
funding
placeholder
mechanism.
type thing.
Yep, and then what we do with that is that funds the ambulances, et cetera, and parts of the upcoming apparatus. When we asked this year what we wanted to do with the apparatus, when we made the proposals, it was just, I guess, decided to do the partial payment, partial bonding. if you
Okay.
will.
And that's, I guess I look at there is a lot of equipment lines. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm going that, and you go
Yeah.
into the CIP account, and you've got money sitting there, and why isn't more money put down instead of having to bond out as much is what it is. Okay, I have to digest all this.
Right.
On the 2 rescues,
Yes.
what falls apart after 4 years? I mean, what's the thing that's failing?
Front ends, brakes, you name it, it's all the mechanicals on the thing.
So have you guys ever thought about taking the inside guts and moving them over into a shell versus full? I mean, what you're ending up with is a $54,000 worth of value on a $180,000 investment.
We actually have, and Kathy's gonna answer this part, but we've actually
I
got
can see her
some-
smiling, so I know she has.
We've got some experience with this too, so I'm gonna let her address the past experiences we've had.
That's called remounting. Some towns do remount, and you'll take it with the body and just remount it. The problem is it's such a complex electrical system in these rescues between your cardiac monitors, your lights, your defibrillators, all of that type of stuff, that you run into so many issues with that. So most towns have got away from remounting their rescues, and it's mostly due to the electrical issues. But you asked what gives up, I mean, your brakes and all of that, but then you start having electrical issues and corrosions underneath and that. And because it's an emergency vehicle, an ambulance, you can't have it breaking down. That's the concern, Brian.
Think about your personal computer and what happens in 5 years with your personal computer. If you were to look at the fire truck of 30 years ago, or even 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, compared to the fire truck today, I think things are moving forward so quickly that the incompatibility issues and the reliability issues would potentially negate some of that savings you would see when flipping those bodies. And then, of course, the corrosion, all that jazz.
I think the other big thing is the wear and tear on these vehicles. You know, we're out during the blizzards, you're out during the frost heaves, you're going down the camp roads. So you do a lot of wear and tear, unfortunately, not by neglect, but just because of how you use them, how you have to use them.
Peter? Regarding Marine One,
Yes.
not sure I know what that is, but I assume it's the Blaze Orange boat I
Yes.
see on Sebago.
Yes.
Do other towns, maybe even the county, contribute anything to that boat?
Actually, do you want to address that
Sure.
too? You're more familiar.
We have an agreement with Cumberland County Sheriff's Office. They do usually 10 shifts a summer on the boat. We have a representative from them on our Marine One committee. We meet every other month during the year. They don't give us money, but they do pay for all the gas that they use, and they pay for our winter, so I guess they do give us money. They pay for our winter storage of it in exchange, and they pay for damage that they do to the boat. We are in talks with the town of Wyndham right now. The town of Wyndham has gotten rid of the boat that they had. Brett Libby is the new chief over there. He came from Standish. Standish had a fire boat. Wyndham does not. So we're going to handle the Wyndham calls with our boat on Sebago Lake Basin, that type thing. We've got members of the Wyndham Fire Department on our boat committee that have been trained on how to use it, and we're looking at doing an agreement with them, just in the beginning stages of that with Wyndham. Right now, their folks come on board and they totally volunteer their time on Marine One.
A little history on this, just quickly. The Sebago Water Safety Watch was something, you know, we didn't one day just say, you know, we ought to have a boat. The citizens came to us that were concerned about unsafe boating, boating under the influence. You know, the idea that the IF&W was overwhelmed and unable to provide the kind of law enforcement support and presence, aside from the whole mission that they're doing, the search and rescue kind of stuff, which the boat's been used for as well. But so it also does that, just having it out there on the key weekends. The sheriff tries to be out there on the really, really, you know, boat saturation weekends. And I've been told from the people who live on the Cape that they believe, and I can assure you that if you're out there and it comes at you with I think it's more maybe pink than blaze orange now, but when it comes at you blaze orange, let's say, with the blue lights on and you're out there, it does have a commanding presence, and so hence a calming effect. The idea that it's not a free-for-all, you do have some rule of law on the lake. And so that was the original idea, not that particular boat, but its predecessor boat, which Sabre Yachts refurbed for us for nothing, a surplus boat. So when it came time that we could get this boat for $14,000, with the help of Senator Collins, we did it, and so now we have it. And you know, I think the people on the big lake are appreciative of it.
Thank you.
Just a quick question on that. This isn't law enforcement because you guys aren't law enforcement. You're not carrying weapons. Is this at all
Cumberland County
dangerous?
does when they're on the boat.
Okay.
They do law enforcement.
It's
Only when they're on the boat.
And the boat was set up originally, it's a Coast Guard boat, so it's set up for law enforcement.
Yeah, but I mean,
In terms of the lighting, when they
well,
use it.
I'm just worried about you guys going out without any kind of appropriate defense mechanisms and someone thinking you are.
One of the things that
Armed.
we've talked about, Brian, just to address that, is that it does have that sign on the front of it. It's a sticker, it's a label that says Cumberland County Sheriff's, that we would have our label on the boat permanently, and theirs would be a stick-on sign that would go over ours. When they're on the boat, their sign would stick on, and it would be labeled as law enforcement. And when it's not, it would definitely be labeled as fire rescue.
So they use it for
identify
law
it.
enforcement?
They use it for enforcement. We have red lights mounted on top of the blue light bar, so when we're using it, it's a
Oh,
red
you
light.
actually are using blue light.
We don't use blue lights,
Okay,
no.
okay.
And they don't use blue lights.
Yeah, I didn't mean to infer that they were using the blue lights
No,
before.
right,
Cumberland County's on it. Cumberland County's out on it on the key weekends, which is, I used to get untold complaints, concerns from residents of Raymond about speeding, boating under the influence, as I said, reckless operation. I haven't got a single complaint since they've been out there doing this. I think it has a calming effect when they're out there.
Have we ever asked Cumberland County to be the lead on this? It would
We
seem-
have.
Yes.
Okay. And
We have.
their response has been?
Their response has been budgetary.
Yeah.
Well,
Response has been to raise the
God,
county
God
tax.
forbid they spend something out this way. Okay, right.
Yeah, but they do actually have another boat, you know. They have another boat that they have in salt water. I think it may be in Harpswell. So, I mean, so that boat was originally stationed in a garage in Wyndham, and so it could go between the two, salt water and fresh water. Which now it's in the salt water somewhere. I think Harpswell, but I'm not positive. Falls Marina. Okay, so they actually do have another boat that they maintain, and the answer is we have asked them. In fact, I've gone so far as to say, you know, you own it and make it available to us. How about that? And you know, it's not something they've agreed to at this point, but we have asked them.
They've been very good about paying for any damage that they've done, though.
Well, that's
Well, you know, you break a prop and.
Yeah.
No, that's a serious issue when you clean out the props or something like that. It's expensive.
Steve?
Bruce, does the operator of that boat have to have a captain's license?
They have training, yes. They have Coast Guard training. They go through a program that was designed for us by a trainer from the U.S. Coast Guard, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's not my
So
question.
Tom-
Do they have a
yeah.
captain's license?
No.
Yeah, no, they have certification.
They don't have to have a captain's license?
No,
Salt water they do.
Yeah, not
not
fresh.
here.
They,
Bob's actually one of the captains.
Yeah.
Is this actually on the water all summer?
This boat is moored on Sebago Lake, right down off Beach Road. There's a slip down there that's given to us every year, a citizen lets us use. I can't remember his name, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you don't go from lake to lake to lake?
Not with that boat. We have a
You
smaller
just
boat.
stay on Sebago?
Yeah, that boat stays on Sebago because that boat's really the one designed to handle the conditions that we would get on Sebago. One, it has radar for navigation, it has sightseeing and sonar for finding people who may be underwater, stuff like that. The other boat is more mobile, and it was another surplus boat that was bought very reasonably, $700, bought a 19-foot Boston Whaler with a 70-horse Tohatsu on a trailer, and that's the boat that we haul to all the other lakes and ponds around. So we have coverage for the other lakes as well.
So to get this all straight, what is this boat mainly for?
Fire rescue, and
Okay.
its rescue is its mission.
Okay.
Yeah. And the police is our partnership that it gets out and it does some enforcement action with the police on board.
What about the game wardens? I mean,
Game wardens, we invited them into our program from the get-go. They never really joined forces with us, if you will.
okay.
There is a game warden assigned to Sebago Lake, and they have a boat very similar to ours. They keep it up in Naples, so for them to get to us. And you'll find that we do. You get calls for folks that lost boaters. You get near drownings or drownings. You get called for the water skiing accidents on the lake, you know, back injuries, things like that. That's what this boat responds to.
But could you take this boat out of Sebago if you had to and go on to another lake for
It's
a rescue?
really too big for the other lakes, so our other Marine 2 does the other lakes.
Yeah.
it's 27 feet long.
Well, I guess I gotta go check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know,
To get it out, to trailer it, to get it out in an emergency, the time constraint, you know, it would take us a couple hours to get it out and move it. Where
But
the
you
other
have
boat's
another
ready to go.
rescue boat to go on to other lakes?
Yes.
Yes.
Marine 2. It's much smaller. It's on a trailer permanently. It's at the station. We can take it. We have boat docks or landings to go into the lake on every lake.
Okay.
The other little anecdote I would tell you from about 14 years ago, I was on scene with the chief. We were at his 50th birthday party and got a call, and so we got in his boat and the last chief, and got in his boat and you know, went around the end of the Cape between you know, Fry Island and Raymond, Fry's Leap specifically, where you have a lot of instances of you know, rope jumping and injuries and so forth. And so that day it was high water, it was windy, and we had the Zodiac raft or a rubber duck type boat, you know, bobbing out there. We had our members in the water. The IF&W showed up, you know, after the fact in a 14-foot Merricraft. You know, it occurred to the then chief and to me that neither the state nor the town had a safe boat, capable enough boat to be in that circumstance. People were put at risk trying to help somebody who, unfortunately, in that case, it was a fatality, and but they were trying to recover the body, and that's the That's the origin of the first boat, which is not this particular boat. It was a 17-foot Proline that we got from state surplus that we used for a number of years in cooperation with Fry Island in the early days. And then when this opportunity came, we ended up, with the senator's help, getting this boat. And so we own it, you know, free and clear. It's our asset. It does require some maintenance, but you know, it's a significant boat.
Other questions on?
I would just add too that the money we put in for painting this is actually reduced significantly because of what our members are going to do in preparation for
You had,
painting on it.
yep, you had mentioned that too.
They also recently painted the Boston Whaler. If you haven't seen that, you should check. If you go to the Citizens Academy, you can see that. And that was originally OD green for whatever reason, but it's now bright red.
Other questions?
Have you asked Cumberland County for any help financially for reconditioning this boat?
Yes, we did.
And they said no?
They have put into their budget their cost of the boat like they have in the past years. They have not increased it.
Zero, right?
And they do pay for our winterization and our opening it up, I guess, the spring, getting it ready again. Pay for that. Not that that's a ton, but they do pay some.
What about the agreement with Wyndham? Do you think I know it's at the beginning now, but can they possibly put it in once you get them signed on, that they put in something in their budget to help pay for the costs and repairs?
It is possible.
In years to come, it will definitely go that way,
I don't know
but
if it's 13,
it's going to be baby steps.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen today.
No,
Right,
I said once they're signed up
We'll
and
be, I think we will get
things
there.
dry.
The problem with Raymond, as it relates to some of our neighboring towns, I'm not so sure it's as much with Wyndham, but you know, we're a giver when it comes to some of the towns to the west of us. We're kind of a taker the other way, so it's a give and take world. We actually get and give. So, and sometimes we maybe get more than we give. So that's how it kind of works in this business.
Other questions on the CIP?
Nancy, how much money do we have total in all these CIP accounts?
I have the reserves.
You got that right there?
Yep, somewhere here.
Well, I think it's total.
Not total, but
Per account?
you want me to go down through all the accounts?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just sitting here going, we're sitting on a pile of cash, and yet we're still bonding money. That somewhere something went wrong.
Okay. Why don't we go down through the reserves, all right?
Yeah.
So we have the TIF reserve. That's $48,905 less $32,000 committed for FY 14-15 for the sidewalk project. And there's a proposal that $10,000 be used in 15-16 for the GIS plotter from there. The timber sale, $30,449 less $13,550 paid for the community survey, less $20,000 committed for the community forest project, and $6511 for prepaid expenses
Adam, it keeps taking away.
regarding the timber sale. The Conservation Commission has $1,640, and I'll make this available to you after. We'll send this out to you. The Open Space Reserve, $35,806, $15,000 used in FY 14-15 for the Tenny River Conservation Project, and $30,000 committed for the 14-15 Community Forest Project. Community Assistance Fund, which is to help the poor, $23,278. Animal Control, $6854, less $4,000 committed for the FY 14-15 budget. The Public Works Equipment Reserve, $24,540. The Fire Reserve, $238,706. Fire Department fees, $6181. Paving Reserve, $428,039. Beautification Committee, $4,347. Public Safety Building, $715. 2011 Fire Rescue Grant, $1,662. Municipal Facilities, $51,795, but that is, of course, less the $36,112 that we're committing for the Town Hall renovations. Fire Department, EECBG. Energy Grant, $333. 2010 Energy Grant, $333. Town Hall sign, the electronic sign, $9,700. Sherry Gagnon Park, $7830. Water watch account, which that goes back to the Sebago water safety that I talked about years ago. 4161, that was privately given money from, you know, people who wanted to have a law enforcement presence on the lake. 4161. 2013 roads bond, 941,953. Veterans Memorial Park, 7205. Jordan Small Middle School feasibility study, $213.
Why is the animal control so high?
That's the fines and fees that are collected during the year, out of which we use $4,000 to $4,500 each year against the budget. You'll notice a negative line item in the budget. Those fees can only be used for animal control. That's why we use it that way.
68,000 is sitting here, and that's the only thing that you can use it for? Can you just,
68,000.
oh,
No.
I was going to say,
No.
you agreed with me, Lonnie.
I couldn't hear what you were saying.
No,
I couldn't.
He just smiled and goes,
I do that all meeting to you.
I still think we're sitting on this pile of cash, and we're still putting money aside and bonding things when some of the money we're putting aside could be a bond payment. So why are we doing both? I'm just, I don't know.
Well, you've got two things that come into play there. One is the move to going toward the bonding was more in the short term, was done more in the short term, as in only in the last 2 or 3 years towards those things. Prior to that, we were doing it through the CIP. A lot of what was going on too is back when we started down the road on the CIP, bonds were running at 12 and 13%. So as we got to the point where the bonds became more affordable, then it became less incumbent to do this, things through the CIP. But if you also remember, there's part of what S&P was looking at when they looked at rating us was, did we have a CIP, and where were we on that? So if we were to totally liquidate that and no longer have that as a plan, that's going to affect some on that bonding side.
well, I agree with part of that, but it's a pile of cash we're sitting on. And I don't know that you just keep putting money into it, not when interest rates are running at 2.5%.
Well, I mean, that was the whole purpose of going,
right.
is making that transition.
Right.
As if we, but do we shut down the whole process and not do some kind of a slight blending?
Yeah.
Marshall?
The problem I have with this budget in general is that last year we exceeded LD1 by almost $500,000. And now we're coming in for another excess of $140,000. I'm trying to find somewhere where we can get rid of $400,000 or $300,000 to $400,000.
You're not the only one.
And I'm going to I started asking about the reserves. Okay? There's got to be money in there that, even if we suspended payments this year, no reserve payments this year, let it be what's in there. That would save us $100,000 and some odd right there. I'm not sure about this Patricia Avenue in my own mind. I think that maybe that's coming up on the table, but maybe we spend $10,000 to find out if there's frogs up there, and then go next year and see if it's a doable project. But
well, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Well, okay,
because
I
right
just
now,
vented there for a second.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
we haven't finished the that's the purpose of the next meeting, is to start looking at that, but we haven't finished with all
the griping's next meeting.
So, but I mean,
you opened the door, Joe. Sorry.
No, I mean, Marshall, I can tell you, I've had the same questions. So
other questions on the CIP?
Yes.
Okay.
So go into this Patricia Avenue. It's on the CIP.
Yep.
There's somebody here to fend that offer. Oh, Danielle, you're gonna take some.
She's a brave
Sorry,
young woman.
Danielle.
This is something that Chairman Reynolds
fire 'em
wanted
off.
to have in the budget, and so I guess she's going to kick it off. We'll see what we can do.
Yep, so this initiative was brought forward by Selectman Chair Mike Reynolds. who unfortunately isn't here tonight, and
Or fortunately.
so he was looking to move forward with a recreational facility up at our other town-owned property, which is Patricia Avenue. At the April Board of Selectmen meeting, I will go forward and ask for about $10,000 in contingency funds in order to do the environmental studies. So you'll see a note here that if we are awarded that money, that will come off the budget. So it'll be -10, so down to 126. But the way this works is because of the IRT schedule, we have to apply now in order to get on the 2017 work schedule, and that's about one of the last years that they're actually going to be here because of their 5-year commitment to Camp Hines. So we would do this all in phases. The first year would be environmentals, which is right now, and then the next year, 15-16, would then be getting all of our permits in place, the approvals, and things so that we're shovel ready, so when they get here in 2017, we're ready to go, which is then the construction phase. And you see that this isn't a small project. We're looking at about a total of about $2 million in total once you add up all these 3 years. But in return, it's actually a $4 million project when you consider in the IRT federal funding that goes in, which is the equipment, the labor, and the fuel. And part of this also includes Mr. Reynolds has been in contact with a couple of the abutters to this property to look into creating a loop road. Instead of going from Patricia Avenue up, a lot of the traffic would then be diverted so that we would connect onto Webb's Mills Road instead. So that part of the one parcel of land from the McGoldricks, which is the actual parcel on Webb's Mills, they're going to donate the land to us and give us an additional $70,000 to put the water line up to the facility, which is a huge savings to us, not only in the land acquisition, but in the water line costs. And then, but the other landowner said that they want fair market value for purchasing a small corner in order to connect those 2 parcels. So that's where we're at right now. I can answer any of the questions regarding the IRT process, but not necessarily what Mr. Reynolds' thought process is on wanting to move forward with this project.
The only question I would have right now is, how many IRT balls do we have in the air?
This will be the 4th.
Okay.
Because right now we have the public safety site distance project, which is, as you can see, we've got the lot cleared now, and now they're going to go in and clean that up and add underground power to our signs. Then the Oak Ledge Fire Pond, they're going to take down the existing fencing and equipment, install the new equipment as well as dredge and replace it. And then the tower site out on Valley Road, aka Repeater Lane, which will include not only installing the foundation but also erecting the tower with cranes and different equipment, then basically completing that project, so when they walk off, the tower will be operational.
The school is coming in for one also.
That is, Deb Hutchinson's here to speak about that one, so that's a different project from the town. They've come to us because of the issues with the potential cost sharing formula, which I'm not sure, that might have been mitigated with Plan B, so.
Okay. Hasn't passed yet.
Right, exactly, so.
We need Raymond voters.
That's one of those imponderables hypotheticals at this point.
Yeah, so they're applying to us because of the fact that, given what option goes to the voters and gets approved with the cost sharing formula, they'll need to get request funding as well, so.
Have you heard Plan B?
I've read Plan B.
Yeah, they actually, the school board did pass that to take to the voters, and it does make a big difference. So Raymond voters need to get out.
Yeah, vote.
Yes, and vote.
Well, let's stay on topic here.
Well, that's part of the IRT because people don't understand what the 300,000 for the next one.
Well, they're carrying that 315 on their budget, so.
Bob?
Okay.
In terms of this Patricia Avenue project, I think the public really needs to see the big picture and not just a $136,000 request for planning. I think they need to know at the end what the total dollar outlay would be for that project.
You mean the $2,069,210?
I only see 136,000 in mine.
Yeah.
On the second page of the memo, there's a total
You gotta go
cost.
to the IRT.
6970.
Kind of transitioning from the CIP into the IRT. Is there, before we finish, are there any other questions in the CIP?
Yeah, a couple on technology. Sorry, I gotta refigure where I am.
Thank you, Danielle.
And Mr. Reynolds will be back for the meeting where the debate and discussion occurs, so.
Kevin, these are really granular, so apologies, but just a couple things. On the projector, you're talking about needing to get a new projector.
Yes.
Because of the analog digital connection, you can't get an analog digital converter. I mean, most of the time, don't people put their computer in there to project? You're not actually.
Yeah, but the whole process is going to change. And not only that, this projector is just older and just not, I guess, up to date with the capabilities. The way we do it now, you can barely even see it unless we dim the lights down in the room. And I guess we could get, you know, converters and make it work.
You can get an analog to digital converter for $50.
Well, 300, yeah, but
I'll show you the one I've got. It's a comprehensive CCNVH 101, if you'd like.
I would like to see that actually.
Well, what you gotta have is now is an HDMI input. You know, that again, we're way beyond the days of
That's
DVI.
$165.
And it's more than just the HDMI as well, because
It can't
newer
handle that
computers don't
resolution,
even
you
have-
can convert it, you can down convert it, and like I said, we can limp along with any of this equipment. That's as old as the station, every piece of equipment in the station. We do need to have a higher level of intensity and a higher resolution to handle the presentations as they come in that zone. We can't project higher resolution, we can down convert, but that doesn't help you project the correct resolution that's being fed to it.
Okay. The iPad Air that you've got in here, this is so that you can do additional presets?
Yeah, it makes sort of a workflow rather than just changing one thing at a time. Have you ever used a MIDI interface?
I have for keyboards.
The same idea, only this one would control all the cameras and all the aspects of the studio. So if you have enough foresight to design it properly, you can control a lot of what you need through the MIDI interface rather than having to...
It's a global remote controller. Instead of having multiple places where you're controlling things, you can agglomerate everything into one control. I don't know if you do that at your house or not, you know how you program your...
But you're sitting in front of the desktop.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I understand why you need a separate remote.
What he's doing is pulling multiple pieces of software into one.
Okay.
The best thing I could do for you is actually have them come in and show you a presentation and why it's necessary. And actually, I could show you a few, you know, pre-recorded presentations on why, and they sell it pretty well because of the way it expands how you can do things rather than having to struggle to get, you know, audio and camera changes all for this particular moment of let's start the meeting and have it come in with the overlays and everything. You can have the buttons programmed to do particular actions.
I mean, if you look back there now, he's got the computer, he's got the, you know, the soundboard, he's got the station controller. I mean, there's 5 or 6 different pieces, and what you try to do is bring that into one control point. Okay. If you need to make an absolute change to one of those pieces of software or equipment, then you go to that particular
So the
piece of
TriCaster is only managing the video?
The video portions of the audio and some of the streaming, yeah. I mean, but we'll still have to mix the audio through this board, so that's going to be one of the remaining pieces that's going to be kept. Okay. We're not swapping over the audio with digital.
We're keeping all the mics.
It would be a much more massive project if it was digital audio as well.
Right. And then the last question was the headphones. How many headphones are you looking to get?
I was hoping to get 2 or 3 out of it, but they're pretty pricey if you want ones that are quality studio headphones. I'm hoping for 2 or 3 anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions on the CIP? Okay, let's go into the IRT. is there an intent to go to a public meeting, a public hearing on the IRT project, or is it just gonna come through here and then go to town meeting that way?
Well, I think they first have to get through this process.
You mean Patricia Avenue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the process was last time. I think we just came here and then went to town meeting as the public hearing.
No, we weren't looking at as big dollars either.
Right.
You know, I mean, when you're looking at a project this size and, what it is and whatnot, I think you've got to have a higher level of
Yeah, I think it's
buy-in on
a step-by-step progression. I would absolutely agree that a public hearing would be, if not required, it would be something you'd absolutely want to do anyway. But you have to get through the budget process first, I think. Because if it's not something that we want to do, budgetarily, then you wouldn't have the public hearing, right?
I mean, it's the horse leading the wagon or the wagon leading the horse. I don't know. I guess the question I had, it's being driven a lot right now from Mike's side.
Well, I think Mike wants he wants there to be first a discussion, I think, amongst the leaders of the town, the budget, finance, and select board leaders of the town, and to see if there's interest in this, to talk about. I mean, you can argue it, obviously various ways, but it's a significant, make no mistake, I mean, it's a significant one-time opportunity. So if it's something that you want, then this will be the very best deal you could probably get for something like this. If it's not, then end of conversation, but you have to have that community conversation, and it starts here, I think. And then if it gets through this process, emerges from the budget, finance, and select board process, then you would have the community dialogue, the public hearings, and then lead up to a town meeting. But he doesn't want, I guess, I don't want to speak for him, obviously, but I think his idea is that he wants for the town to have an opportunity to have a discussion about this one-time opportunity.
That's 100% correct. He looks at this as an opportunity that may be once in a lifetime for the town, and he doesn't want it to go beyond. I mean, you're talking, you pay half of what you would by the National Guard coming in and doing the work, so it's a huge opportunity. And that was his big push, was we got to reach out and have the whole town decide this, because it is that big of an opportunity.
We also have to remember we're under the timing of the IRT, so we had to get the budget in and move it forward, so that way, because we have to be shovel ready when they touch base. Like, that's the issue that we're running into, well, not issue, but some preparedness that we're running into with the IRT projects right now. We have 3 or 4 feet of snow on the ground, and now the roads are getting posted. We have the military coming in and stuff like that, so we have to make sure everything on our end is like shovel ready for them to hit the ground. So the first step is the environmentals, and just like Egypt Road, I don't think we'll find frogs, but we could find something else in there that will seriously affect this project, and then we just take it off the docket like we did the last one. But we have to start somewhere.
You have your first sign, by the way. There was a front page story in the Lake Region Weekly saying project is gelling, right? Do you see that? Project gelling? I don't know how gelled it is, but you don't have a room full of people saying don't do it. So, but you also don't have a room full of people saying do it. But I think that tells you something, I guess, that it certainly hasn't generated a room full of controversy either way. So that's the first, I saw that in the paper and I thought, oh, interesting.
Questions?
Are you talking just Patricia right now?
Yes.
So Mike just wants to open it up and have that, you're going to have those discussions over the next few weeks, and then you make a decision, and then if it's affirmative, we'll schedule hearings. If it's not, then we're done. So there you go.
Questions on Patricia?
We're done.
Oh,
Done. Thank you.
all right. Then the other one was the school.
Mr. Chair, one other thing is that I know there's people here from RWPA regarding the Sebago whatever that is, we can add that at the end. I think there was communication around, we can make sure that gets covered tonight. Thanks.
This is our plan. But as Danielle said, we're kind of under the same
Give me a hand around.
problem. Yeah, if you can pass it
Oh,
over.
there we go, Nate.
Yeah.
Everyone should have their own Nathan. Everyone should have their own Nathan.
Instead of Nathan. Nathan White's Vanna White. Oh, Vanna White's Nathan.
Do it, Nate.
Nice job.
And put it right side up, Nathan.
Just a little bit.
Nathan White or Vanna White?
Yeah, Vanna.
Yeah.
So we're under the same kind of guidelines with the IRT. We did put in an IRT application. We've wanted to expand the playground at RES for quite a few years, and when we found out about the IRT stuff on the working down at Camp Hines, we were encouraged by Danielle to go for it, and so we have put in an application. So this, if there's everything here we wanted, it would be 600,000. But with the IRT, it would cut it in half, which is what we came to the town asking for, was the 300,000. And just knowing that we don't know a lot, there are a lot of unknowns. We don't know about the dissolution of the RSU. We didn't know if this cost sharing thing would go through. And we really just wanted to make the town aware that this is something that we really want to do for the safety of our children, the safety and security of our children. So basically, I was hoping that nobody's going to ask me like these big number questions, because I really don't have the answers to that. But really just wanted you to all know that this was out there. And Danielle and Don both said the best way for us to do that is to put it on the budget, to ask the budget committee for this. And then if we need it, then we will have it, because when they come, IRT comes shovel ready, we want to make sure that we know where that money is coming from. So I don't know if that...
I think you need to explain too why you're doing that, because the playground is not suitable. Kids are getting hurt.
They are
fencing,
getting hurt.
And I don't think a lot of people
There's
know
no
that.
fencing on the playground at all. We've had hunters come on the playground. We had a child seriously injured this fall. There's no flat area. I don't know if you see, this is the current right here. This is our existing play area right here. That's all they have to play, and it's not flat. What we really would want to do is just have a flat area. And people who've had kids at the school know what that little playground's like. We've got some equipment there, but it's really not for older kids. There's really no place for our kids to play that's flat. And that's kind of all I want. I just want a flat place for them to play, and that's all they want too. Can we have a soccer game without the ball going down into the woods? And then we put a snow fence up so the ball wouldn't go down to the woods. But right now, the snow is over the snow fence, and that doesn't stop anybody from coming onto the playground or kids leaving the playground. So that's why we want fencing all around it too. So could we cut this down to say, yes, just come in and do the fill so that we have enough area? Absolutely. But we were thinking, okay, so what would we really, really like here? And we'd like a big enough size for them to be able to play. Deb. Oh, sorry, Deb.
This plan that you have here, is this more equipment on the playground too,
No.
or this is just
This fill.
just fill?
It's fill.
Just fill and fence?
Fill and fence. Some of the money things are like changing currently where there's a big trash thing called that's there.
Dumpster?
Yeah, the dumpster. They're going to move that, and there's a little shed there. They had talked about that, but that's certainly not the big expense. Comes in the fill and the fencing.
If you look at the topography, it is not conducive to flat fields. That's the problem, a lot of fill.
I encourage you to come over and see anytime. We'd love
I've
to
seen
see.
it. It's
I know.
disgusting.
Yeah.
There's also a presentation that they did that's in the Selectmen Archives, if you're interested in that notion
Right.
of Phil, right? Phil?
Yeah. Where's Phil? We're looking for Phil. It's
Yeah.
also on the RSU.
Huh?
The kids put it together.
It's the February meeting, if you want to look it up.
If you do have kids in this town, it is not safe.
I mean, the question is, if the new funding formula when the RSU comes in,
Right.
is it their responsibility at that point and not the town of Raymond?
It falls under a minor capital improvement because it's a renovation. It would not fall under major, and in that case with Plan B, minor renovations would be split between the two towns, is what it is.
But we thought it would be beneficial, because we didn't even know that at the time to put the budget together, but, you know, we don't know how this is gonna turn out, but we thought you should know about it and, you know, be aware of it, and that's all it really is at this point.
Do we need a, to put it politely, a vernal pool survey to put that much fill in there?
Oh, yeah, they'll have to be,
That's being all, yeah, the RSU approved $30,000 to do all that study.
That's what you
separate
were
engineering,
okay,
this
that's what
is
you told
separate,
us, right?
separate from the town, of course, this is separate engineer firm,
Right.
separate deal.
Because you have approved, you mean, we have verified wetlands, right?
Yes, yes, so that,
It's a totally different process.
right, so, but the EPA study was approved by the RSU board.
So we urge people to get out and vote. Get out.
March 25th.
Yep. March 25th at 5:30. It's an early vote, a very early vote, and it's going to be in Wyndham.
Gonna be in Wyndham.
Which way? I say yes.
Okay,
Vote for it,
let's stay on topic here.
We are. It's talk about the playground on
Well, I
IRTs.
know, but
when
now
they
you're getting
cross.
it, you're branching into the withdrawal, so.
They changed the date on that?
Sorry.
No, not really.
Did they change the vote on, the date on that voting hearing?
They had to.
25th.
Was it because of the revamp?
It's because somebody sent out
Because
the
of
notices
new
the wrong way.
formula.
There's a new formula. So, is there gonna be another public hearing?
Yes. Thursday night.
Thursday night here at Raymond Elementary.
You're great at that, Nathan.
No, really.
Really
thank you
good.
so much.
Other questions on the IRT project under the school right now?
No.
I really can't state much of it.
Okay. Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I sent a email out to our group. I don't know if you, if the selectmen got that or not, Dawn, the one from Diane.
Probably, I got it on my phone, you sent it out tonight, right?
Yeah,
I received
you
that.
sent it to me and I said it, I just got it late, so.
Oh, no, it looks like she's, Diane Potvin is not feeling well
Right,
tonight.
she called
Okay.
me just before the meeting, said she was not gonna be able to be here because she was homesick.
Right, and I
From the
talked to her,
sounds of
I
it,
talked to
we
her on
didn't
the
want her
phone,
here in the
and I
conditions
know
she's
her,
in.
I guess I would vouch for that, and so she's made it, she sent some material, she sent some information. I suggested to her, probably just before she called you, that she call you and explore the notion of, you know, coming to one of the review meetings, because, you know, I think that's the only, hopefully that's a fair thing to do, and it shouldn't take too much time, and maybe to, you know, answer any questions then, and before you deliberate it. Would that be possible?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'd have to, you know, I guess you're gonna run that next meeting anyway, Lonnie, so I mean, if you have no objections to it, then I don't have any objections to it, but take a look at the email I sent out, which gives some background on what she's talking about there, so that this is in regards to that funding request that they had in there.
I didn't see it today.
Is it possible that, I know there's a number of people, I see Bob in the back from RWBA, if they wanted to make any comment, I don't know if they have, but they probably haven't seen this, so, but just about the, Bob, do you have any, I'm gonna ask the chair first whether that's possible for them to comment, or?
He could, you know, I mean, certainly he can, yeah, I have no problem with him, you know, but I don't know that he's seen what she sent.
No, in fact, it's very,
So he's
very likely
commenting on something he doesn't-
you all have more information about this than we do. This, as I mentioned in the last meeting, this is a Diane Potvin initiative, and she's got lots of energy and lacks a little bit of organization and forethought. But if it's a sound idea, whatever it is, then obviously, and if it's talking about RWPA, I would like to know about that. We have our own board and would have to make our own decision about whether this is something that we would sponsor, we would support, we would be involved in, or whether it would be a standalone effort. I've heard it described two different ways that are diametrically opposed for what it is they're supposed to accomplish, so I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and let her talk when she can.
Right.
It's two separate things.
It's two separate things right now. There may be some collaboration or not. I think you know, we made it, I mean, she was in California last time, I mean, tonight she's ill. I think the answer is to give her a couple minutes at one of the review meetings and let her make her pitch, and that's what I can't answer, and you can't answer the questions that you might have, so that's what we need to do, I think, if you'd agree.
Yeah, I don't have an objection to it, but.
Okay.
But it's
She's worked really hard. She's done a lot already. She's a very energetic volunteer, and she's trying to marshal the forces to gather monies from various sources to address this issue, which is a serious issue for Sebago. And so I think to give her a couple minutes would be the thing to do, and hopefully she'll be all set to go next time.
okay. Any other questions on any of that before I open up the floor? If anyone from the community has any comments already, we'll open it up. Please hold the comments to close to 3 minutes if you can. Go on from there. Seeing none, the next meeting will be the workshop, and that will be 23rd, and that will be chaired by the select board.
24th.
24th, yeah.
March 24th?
And this, at this point, this is still in a draft schedule, so until the select board comes up with a recommendations from, it's back in their court to run that meeting.
Well, thank you all very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. And if there are any questions in the meantime, keep them coming. I'm sending you out. I don't know how relevant some of the stuff is, but anything I see that looks remotely budget committee related or budget committee interesting, I'm sending to Rolf. I don't know if you're sending all that stuff out or not, but
whatever comes to me goes to them.
all right. I'll send whatever I get.
I do no censoring it. What I get, they get. So.
All right.
All right. Short of that, meeting is adjourned.